All right, dude. And we're live. So I really appreciate you coming out here and doing this trip. I know we've bounced around this idea for probably a year now or something, huh?
Yeah.
And I think we'll call this episode Reminiscing of Ramadi.
That's perfect.
Because I know we're going to go down some fucking crazy stories of our time that we spent together in Ramadi. But before we go into that, I think it's important to just, like I do with most of my guests, we'll just start at the beginning, give a little background of who you are, where you came from. And you know what's cool about this is, like, when I do this with guys I've been homies with for 20 years, I don't know a lot about your life growing up, where you came from, what made you join the military, all that shit, you know? Right. So it's cool to learn about shit as a friendship, just like it is for the listeners to hear this for the first time. And so, you know, the podcast goes where it goes, and I'm excited to fucking rant about all kinds of fucking problems in our society and all the bullshit going on, but also just really reflecting on, like, coming from the warrior culture that we were both immersed in for so long, and then how we've grown so far past that, and like what our missions are today and shit. It's cool, the parallel that we're seeing between our lives. So yeah, bro, just give them an introduction of who you are, and we'll just fucking take it from there.
Sure. Well, as you know, I'm Lee Deckelman, AKA Sonny. And I was born in Baltimore, Maryland in 1966. And at about age 9, my dad passed away, and that was a real change. And living with a widowed mother who was mentally ill, and you know, growing up in that scenario, by the time, you know, I got out of high school, I didn't have a lot of options. And so the military really was a job. Mm-hmm. I never felt like I needed to answer the call as a kid, or, you know, wanted to be in the military as a kid. You know, the idea of a lot of discipline didn't sound attractive to me as a kid. So I was just a wild animal, and I enjoyed that.
Bro,
I enjoyed the freedom.
I say the exact same story, because when most people tell their story of joining the military, it's like, I read a book when I was 8 and knew I wanted to be a Navy SEAL.
Right. No, not me.
Yeah, just lost kids, man.
Yeah. So, but you know, then, you know, once you get in there, you're like, okay, I don't want to be just a regular guy. I never wanted to be just a regular guy. There was always an inner voice. I wanted to be at the top of the heap, whatever I was doing, you know, so, you know, I leaned towards getting into special operations, which is, you know, we both agree that, you know, it's hard to beat going right off the street as a civilian into the Army and becoming a Ranger. It's hard to beat that scenario.
Yeah.
If you really want to be in special ops and really want to test your manhood, if you will. And so, yeah, that you know, so that worked out. It's funny. We can delve into that at any point. Nothing in my life I did in the right order or the right way. And maybe that's why I'm so humble now. But I did go on and spend time in the Ranger Battalion and 1st Battalion. And
so did you get at the time they were called RIP contracts? And like right out of the Army, or no? Okay.
It's like, I guess nothing ever went that way.
You just said you didn't do anything right, so.
I didn't do anything right. No, so I went about everything. I was the guy that went to Ranger school before he went to Airborne school. You know, I was that guy, you know, that did it all out of order, and it was based.
Oh, so you went to Ranger school
as a leg
from another unit then?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, yeah, the whole thing. So, yeah, we could delve into that. But
let's geek. Here, I like to geek out on this kind of the process, especially. It's a long-form podcast. And because we've been homies for so long, I have no doubt, and we vibe, I have no doubt this could be a 4-hour episode.
Yeah, great.
So
I'm in for it.
We can fucking talk as long as we want to. But I always like kind of dissecting the path to get to when you became a Ranger or when you become a Green Beret, because a lot of the audience is younger kids. And even though the system has changed, the process has changed, a lot of it's still the same too, to a certain extent, you know?
Yeah.
And so then you joined with just an infantry contract.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And was actually ignorant to that. You know, I didn't really understand anything I was doing. And so I trusted in the people and the positions who I should trust.
Yeah.
And it was a complete lie and a complete scam. And I've got the proof, you know, I've got the scars to prove it. So, I was sold on the idea that if you want to be in Ranger Battalion, This was 1985. My recruiter in Tullahoma, Tennessee. If you want to be in Ranger Battalion, all you have to do is go where there's a Ranger unit and be an 11 Bravo and volunteer. So he got me Fort Lewis, 11 Bravo, and he said, when you show up, just volunteer. And I was like, too easy.
Just walk down to 2nd Battalion.
And I did.
Oh, shit.
And it didn't work.
Oh, dude, we're shocked.
I did.
I tell people all the time as a public service announcement, your fucking recruiter is going to lie to make whatever numbers they need to make.
That's right.
And it's like, recruiters are like anybody else in life, fucking doctors, lawyers, whatever. There's an element of them that are good people that are going to work with you. And then there's an element of them that are just shitty people that are trying to meet quotas.
Right.
And so do your homework, talk to people that have walked that walk and understand the path. And if it's not in writing, you ain't fucking getting it.
Absolutely.
You know?
And I went through the process with my son. So my son went to 1st Ranger Battalion. Up until, you know, when you really solidify that contract towards the end, you know, prior to deploying to basic training, it was a battle.
Yeah.
I was a previous regiment guy, know the system, you know, and I'm in there arguing with guys. I said, that's not true.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they're just used to telling people whatever they want to. It's kind of that governmental thing. It's like, you know, it's like a flight attendant. You can't do that. It's like, what's your course of action? You do it or you get off the plane and you don't get to ride. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
There's no wiggle room. I thought this was America.
Well, bro, it's just like with one of my jiu-jitsu students, Eli, who we talked to last night. I went to the recruiter with him. This was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And the recruiter said, regiment is full and they're not offering option 40 anymore. And I'm like, that doesn't make any, come on, dude. And he goes, no, seriously, like there's no way to get a option or a RASP contract anymore. And then you saw Eli last night say, another recruiter called him back and said that guy was wrong. And it's like, see, it's always something, man.
That's right. And when they're not held accountable for anything they say or do, it'll just continue. Because if I understand correct, there's a number, and I don't know what that number is now, but there's so many option 40 contracts a year, and they're nationwide. So if it's just like a used car or a car, if you got one in California and they're not using it, the guy in Tennessee can use it. You know what I mean? They can. So there's only so many of those slots available each fiscal year. And so there may have been a little bit of truth to what he was saying, is maybe the slots have been all used up by the time he looked, or maybe the guy was just doesn't know what he's talking about, just like everybody I dealt with my son and myself. They're just trying to get you to sign.
Yeah.
Because the military sets it up where if you want to be promoted and you go into being a recruiter, you better get a lot of people in the military if you want to be seen as a good recruiter, a good soldier, whatever. It's like, well, what they don't understand is the hidden dynamic in that is you basically have to be a used car salesman, a person that's not very virtuous or moral or anything else, and how you go about getting these young, easily manipulated men and women who are probably in a position in their life where they're vulnerable.
And they also don't understand how any of the dynamics work.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what you said. Like, oh, this guy told me once I get to Fort Lewis, go down, talk to 2nd Battalion Command, and we can make it happen. That's as good as, you know, that you can take that as truth, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, why would I not believe the government that I want to go serve?
Yeah.
You know, why would I not believe them? Yeah.
And bro, I had I didn't get a RIP contract either, but I got airborne infantry. And they told me, once you get to airborne school, go talk to regiment and they'll square you away. And they did.
And that is true. That's a lot more accurate.
Yeah. So
if you get the airborne contract, they will come to airborne school.
And so that's how it worked out for me. But then I found out after the fact that regiment doesn't recruit from every airborne school class, because the needs of the regiment fluctuate.
That's true.
And also like timing of when they're running RIP classes and stuff, that's not a guarantee. That's just something they try and do.
That's right.
More often than not. And it worked out, but I don't want to base my fucking career off of a no, more often than not. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So so when you got to Fort Lewis, then you walked down and went in the red fence and got shot down?
Dude, this is a whole chapter in my book. Like this one question is like a whole chapter in my book. So I show up at a leg infantry unit.
What infantry unit was it? Was it 3rd?
No, the 9th Infantry Division was there. until the late 80s. So,
Okay.
At Lewis. So, and we were right. So were your barrack, what company were you in?
Alpha Company.
So you faced Noble Hill?
Yes.
Okay. So if you went from your barracks towards regimental headquarters,
Yep.
the airfield, and then took a right, like you're going down to the gym,
Yep.
you know, by the old movie theater and all that.
Yep.
Before you go down the hill to the gym on the right, that infantry unit right there, which is about 2 or 3 blocks from Alpha Company, basically where you were at, is where I was. So I was I could literally see, and that was back when the regiment still kind of, each battalion could still kind of do their own thing. They were just now becoming, you know, 3rd Battalion was coming online and all that. It was just coming together. So, you know, the Rangers wore blue PTs with a white stripe down the side.
Oh shit.
And everybody knew who they were. And it was like, it was a pretty basic physical fitness outfit. But, you know, when you're so impressionable and you want to be that person, I can just remember seeing them. And I was like, one day I'm going to be wearing one of those blue suits, running down the road like a badass. You know, it's like those were the things that mattered. And
well, I mean, it was the same for my generation, except it was, you know, the black short shorts.
Which are a lot sexier.
Yeah.
That's a lot cooler.
Dude, I would love, my whole workout attire is Ranger panties, except First Form makes them now. So they don't have to have the scroll on them.
Right.
But no, like it was the same thing. When I was in basic training or when I was in airborne school, because 3rd Ranger Battalion is also located at Fort Benning, you see a dude in the PX and Ranger PTs. Fuck, one day. You know what I mean?
I know.
It's cool, dude.
No,
like young men should look at other people and like it should make them have aspirations and goals. And like I remember that like yesterday, dude. You see a fucking Ranger on Fort Benning, it's like, wow.
Yeah, I still get chill bumps thinking about it. Put myself so, and that's the thing is, inside you, if those aren't the things that drive you and motivate you and whatever, then I probably don't understand you. We probably won't get along very well. But you know, to me, it's just like, then what are you doing? You know, are you literally just on this planet to eat shit and live as long as you can? Like, there's so much other things in life. And so I think that's why, you know, it's just a much more richer experience when you do have the opportunity or the privilege or the ability to go serve at that level. And it doesn't have to be in Ranger Battalion. It doesn't even have to be in the military. There's all kinds of extreme, interesting ways to serve this country. But I know we're probably going to get into a point where you and I are on the other side of that that blind loyalty to a government that at the end of the day is
doesn't have our best interest.
It's the definition of a megalomaniac.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an out of control system.
You know, and it's interesting because I kind of walked a very similar path. Lost 18-year-old kid. I mean, I had a good family and I had a good like upbringing, but I didn't know what I wanted next. And so I was like, all right, let's see what's up with this. And for some reason, there was something in the back of my head that's like, well, if you're going to commit 4 years of your life to something, why don't you find the hardest thing they can throw at you? And where does that come from? You know, because we talked about that yesterday. What about seeking the hardest path appeals to certain people? Because I remember as a little 17-year-old child, I should be a Navy SEAL or an Army Ranger. I don't know anything about those units. I don't know their mission capabilities, their skill sets, but there's something inside of my head that's like, I know that that's hard to do, so I should probably do that.
I think that's a great point, Snake, that you bring up. And my answer to that is I think that person that has that inner voice, that inner drive, that inner passion to serve in that way, I think that just puts you in a warrior class of people. Mm-hmm. I think whether that's genetically, whether it's something impacted you in childhood or whatever, but you know, there is a certain if it went quiet here, does that mean anything?
No, everything's still recording.
Okay.
That headset has a little bit of technical issues. But
that's fine. I just
is it back on now?
I don't hear myself.
Okay.
Now I do. Now I hear you and everything.
We're
else.
good?
Yeah,
okay.
But,
and I'm not going to edit that out because real life happens.
That's
and
real
this
life.
fucking roadcaster is. I didn't
want to be sending over a sit rep and you not getting it on your end.
Yeah, no, keep me posted on that, and I can just wiggle that fucking cord. I'll fix that soon.
Where were we?
You're saying there's just the warrior class of people.
Yeah.
Like,
So I think when I hear you say that, now let me clarify that by saying you can have a guy come through the door who thinks he wants to be a ranger or thinks he wants to summit Mount Everest or whatever else. I'm not saying that puts you in a warrior class. What I'm saying is that guy that feels it and then does something about it.
Yeah.
I think that puts you more in a, you derive for whatever reason from a warrior class of people. And I think that makes up maybe 8 or 10% of the population. You know, I don't know what those numbers are, but you know, there's a small percentage of the population that are really made up of a warrior class of people who want to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Who want to be tested,
Want to face challenges,
who want to, at the end of the day, be attached to something bigger than themselves, even if it cost them their life.
Yeah.
That's fucking, you know, you don't read a book and become that. You know, you don't go get a shot from the doctor and become that. Like,
yeah. You think
there's
it's
a lot
like
more to that.
Inherent in, because I wonder about this with, you know, in jiu-jitsu, there's a saying, you can't teach heart. And then I'll always say, man, I've seen guys come in here with weak constitutions, and after they grind for a year, they become savage motherfuckers, dude. So I've always said, I think you can teach heart. But something that I've wondered about with like guys that are drawn to special operations, do you think they're building warriors, or do you think the whole process is just selecting the guys that inherently already have that in them? Or maybe a combination of both, huh?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I would say more to the latter, if I have to guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like when we talked about selections yesterday, as a 18-year-old kid going through RIP, there was never 1 second where I was like, I'm gonna quit. You know what I mean? It's just, and that's not me trying to be a badass.
No, you'd
like,
rather die though.
And bro, and I wasn't one of the fucking standout players.
Me either.
Like basic training, I was pretty standout. Airborne school, pretty standout. And then once you get to RIP, it's like, dude, everybody that's there is already fucking like, just to show up, they already are cut from a different cloth.
Absolutely.
And what I noticed is, and again, I wish we just were recording for the last 48 hours because we hung out a lot. But I talked about quitting wrestling and how that to this day, that bothered me. One of the reasons that bothered me is because when I got to RIP, I watched the kids that were good athletes through high school, how well they performed, versus me who was just fucking drinking beers and going to parties and shit. And I had a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, that past performance, you know, carries on. So you look at a guy that's a high level athlete that has the discipline to train hard. He's been pushed and he's excelled at that level. That's a good candidate for special operations.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's the SEALs or anything else, you know,
team dynamics.
We inherently have a different culture than the SEAL community, but it's not different people.
Yeah.
It's the same type of people. What I've noticed about the SEAL community and our community, I don't want to do a complete shift, but just a great opportunity to interject is, you know, those guys seem to be a lot more comfortable in water, for example, or whatever. And that may be the one thing that really gravitates them, you know, becoming a SEAL over something different. But, you know, at the end of the day, none of those selection processes are a joke. And at the end of the day, if you make it and you're successful there, you are a warrior class of person.
Yeah. And I'm sure we're going to go in depth into the contracting world here shortly. But that was a big eye opener for me because you remember when you were in Ranger Regiment, every other unit other than the unit was shitbags.
That's right.
Green Berets, they're fat, lazy turds. That's SEALs, they're prima donna faggots. Like the regiment. And then you find out those other units, SEALs say the same thing. Like, oh, fucking the Rangers are just fucking glorified infantrymen. So there's always this like ego about who's better and these guys are shitbags. And then when we all got together and formed teams of men going to war from all these different units, man, everybody was cool.
It didn't even matter, did
you know
it?
What I mean?
It didn't even matter. It was like
our team was like, what, 5 unit guys, couple Green Berets, couple Rangers, couple SEALs, throw in a Force Recon guy or two. And bro, everybody was cool. And that made me realize it's like, oh, all that shit we're being fed about. Because sure, I mean, you can, like, you read the book Robert's Ridge, where like the SEAL Command made some egregious fucking errors tactically and stuff. But you could probably dissect the history of any unit and find some real fuck ups. I mean,
it's war.
It's war.
We've been talking about that for 2 days. It's war.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
you know, or like that book about the Green Berets' initial invasion into Afghanistan and propping up Hamid Karzai. And then that fucking officer called for fire on his own team.
Right.
Like shit like that happens, man.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, once you kind of decided, I want to do something a little bigger, I want to be part of something bigger myself, and then you found yourself in a regular infantry unit, did something feel off there?
I never settled.
Okay.
I never settled. It was never home. Like, I knew from the time I got there, I was passing through. I was like, y'all other motherfuckers do whatever y'all want.
Yeah.
But I came in here, I'm on a mission. So I had a mission within a mission. Now I've got a job, and my job now is going to be to do something special within the parameters of the military, whatever it can allow me to do. And where I ran into problems is everything the recruiter told me to get me in was a lie.
Yeah.
Once you're in, you can't do anything about it. You know, you leave the military basically like breaking out of prison. Like, they're going to come get you. They may not now. I don't know what they do. They might give you a trophy now for quitting, you know, saying that, you know, it takes a lot of courage to quit in this scenario. You know, I don't know how they.
Or maybe you want to become a woman. So.
Yeah. Or whatever. I mean, you know, if you make the world bizarre enough, everything goes, right?
Yeah.
Like, nothing makes sense. Everything goes. And the people in power and control get to make all the decisions. But yeah, so. There was a long process of, you know, contacting my congressman, talking to the chaplain, going over to Ranger Battalion to introduce myself, putting in those 4187s, which, as you know, is just a request to transfer to another unit or a school. And they kept getting denied. And my first sergeant and my captain, the real leadership of our company, both came from 2nd Ranger Battalion. So every day I stood there and looked at their little Ranger tabs above their 9th Infantry badge. Mm-hmm. And I knew they both came from 2nd Ranger Battalion and you know, listened attentively to any story they would tell about it. And I was consumed. There's nothing else in my life mattered. I was 19 years old and I wanted to be a Ranger. That's all that mattered. And they didn't seem like they wanted me to do it. You know, it was like, it was very, so I think I was depressed a little bit while I was in the military. You know, I was up in Washington State up here and I was all alone. It was 9 months since I'd seen the sunshine and Mount Rainier. It was like, that was so weird to me. There were so many things, you know, for the first time in my life, in addition to, I just joined the Army on a total lie.
Not doing what you want to do.
I've been handed this shit sandwich and I'm supposed to like it. Yeah. So not only did they hand me a shit sandwich, they're forcing me to like it. And I just doubled down. You know, I was still young and had enough energy. I was like, nope, that ain't how this is going to go. And so I just kept at it. And if anybody's interested in the book, it goes in a lot more deeper detail that I'd just be scared to go into right now and take away, because I know we got some other really exciting stuff to get to. But ultimately what I did was, back then the Army had this thing. It was called a stateside swap. And so if you could find somebody anywhere within the continental United States that wanted to transfer to your
duty station,
station, and you to theirs, and you're the same rank, same MOS, same job, no cost to the government, you can do it.
Okay.
And so I bumped into a guy on deployment in California that said he had family in Seattle and wanted to be at Fort Lewis. And I was like, does your unit get Ranger slots? And he goes, all the time. And I said, I'll do it. That was it. That's how long that conversation
took. This is just Ranger school slots.
That's all. At that point, I was a year and a half into a 3-year enlistment.
Yeah.
At that point, that was the only way I could salvage what I set out to do. So within a few months, I was at Fort Campbell. Within a few months later, I was at Ranger School, and I had the minimum amount of time left
You say Fort Campbell?
Yeah,
That's Kentucky, yeah.
Yeah. So
so you ran into this guy in California
on a deployment. He was from the 101st. I'm sorry.
Got it. Okay, yeah.
He was from the 101st. All of it's in my head. Yeah, I'm sorry. So the 101st were training with us.
I'm tracking now.
So when I went to Ranger School, Class 1-88, it was October of 1987, and when I graduated in December, I had, I think, 10 months left in the Army. The minimum was 9 months. You had to have at least 9 months left in the Army to go to Ranger School.
Okay.
So I just barely made the cutoff. So all of that finally worked out. I did go to Ranger School. I completed it successfully, had 9 months left. And since, at that time, this will fire some people up. But at that time, anybody in the special ops or special forces, the Green Beret community, anybody in the Green Beret community was authorized to wear a Green Beret. So you had staff people, had nothing to do with special forces. You had females, had nothing to do with special forces, walking around base, because Fort Campbell had, and Fort Lewis too, has, 1st and 5th groups are at those two places. And so I was thinking about re-enlisting to be a Green Beret.
Okay.
And that I remember coming out of the PX one time, and that was when Gore-Tex was first big. It was like this magical thing called Gore-Tex. Yeah, only special people got to wear it. So they would wear their Gore-Tex just like the Rangers would wear all their cool stuff that everybody else didn't have. And so this pregnant female comes out with a Green Beret on. I was like, I don't want to be a Green Beret anymore. And people, your audience can look at that however they want to, but a 21-year-old Lee Deckelman
wants to be a fucking savage. not a soft shoe profile. That was my
idea of a Green Beret. If it's that easy to be a Green Beret, I'm not interested in it. And we can talk about the difference between men and women all we want to. There's a difference.
To say otherwise is fucking foolish.
Yeah. So I just decided to get out. And
you just ETS'd, huh?
I just ETS'd. And so there'll be another chapter, on down where I decide to go back in. And that's when I go to 1st Ranger Battalion.
Got it. Okay.
And then on to 3rd Special Forces Group.
So, what rank were you when you got to 1st Bat?
So when I left Desert Storm, I was an E6, and it got downgraded to an E5. And so then when I went back in the military a few years later, I had to go back in as an E4.
I see. So you had to have re-enlisted then, or did you because you didn't make E6 in one enlistment?
No. I was E5 when I got out at Fort Campbell.
Okay.
And when I got activated for Desert Storm, I was made E6. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I got activated while I was off active duty
on IRR.
For Desert Storm.
I see.
Through the Guard.
Yeah.
And it was like a field promotion to E6 to take over this defense plan and operational control over a defense base, Escon Village, for those who are familiar with the military base outside of Ramadi. Not Ramadi, Riyadh.
Okay. Got it.
Not Ramadi. Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
And for most people aren't aware, it doesn't matter how many years you enlist in the military, whatever your contract says, active duty, the military has you for 8 years.
Right.
They can call you back for up to 8 years. And I actually, because remember, IRR was getting activated during the War on Terror for a little bit too. And I got letters to my house.
Right.
But I was in Ramadi contracting. So I just fucking ignored them. And if it ever were to come up, I'd be like, dude, I was already in the war. Like, sorry, I missed your letters,
Yeah. I was fighting it from the side where I can make a little more money for my family. I apologize if that didn't work into your plan, but it's my life.
Yeah.
It's my career. I'm doing the best I can. Work with me.
So you re-enlisted with a RIP contract then and went.
Man, you ain't going to believe this. Do you really want to do this? So, dude, man. It's embarrassing to say this. So I go back in. I show up to Fort Stewart to in-process because Hunter Army Airfield doesn't do the in-processing. So, like, when you come to 2nd Bat or 3rd Bat, You go to Fort Benner, you go to Fort Lewis, you in process.
Yeah.
Blah, blah. When you go to 1st Battalion, you're going to Hunter Army Airfield. So you actually have to go to Fort Stewart in process.
Got it. Yep.
And then you.
Yeah, because they don't have a lot of like support units there.
So it's just a little different for the, you know, anybody that doesn't know. It's just a little bit different. So I show up, and this is true. I'm not going to say anything today, so I won't keep saying disclaimers. I'm not going to say anything today. It's not true. If I don't know it to be true, I'll say it's not. I don't know if it's true or whatever. So I show up, I drive down. At the time, I got a wife and a young daughter. Decided to go back in for the best interest of my career, my family was the reason why I decided to go back in. And I get down there, and I think it's day 2, maybe. They give you your orders of unit assignment. You know, the internal orders, not the official orders that you traveled with, but they have their own internal orders to assign you to the bases. And everybody gets theirs, and I get mine, and it's some damn infantry type unit on Fort Stewart. Yeah. But I'm not a kid anymore. Yeah. And that's why the military doesn't there's a reason why they target a certain age and do things a certain way. Yeah. And retain a certain amount. There's a reason. But so I go right up to it's a Spec 4 at the desk. And of course, he's a Spec 4, busy as hell. He don't care about my situation, right? So no big deal. But I go up to him and I say, hey, man, this is wrong. I said, I'm supposed to be going to 1st Ranger Battalion, blah, 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 blah. He goes, no. He said, you're assigned to whatever else. I said, buddy, I'm going to tell you right now. I said, by the end of today, if you don't have me orders that say 1st Ranger Battalion, Hunter Army Airfield, I said, I'm getting in my car and I'm driving back home. Like I was done. Like I'd been out of the military like 4 years. I got a wife and kid now. I'm not playing in these stupid fucking Army games anymore. Yeah. Like I came down here. There was never a moment where it wasn't clear what I asked for, what I wanted, and what I was told I was getting. And because of some code or something in this paperwork or whatever. So I told him, and I mean that as much as I mean anything I say today. I was going to get in my car. I don't care how the patriotic, take that and you eat that shit sandwich. I'm not. Yeah, fuck that. So he called over. I sat right there. He picked up the phone, called HHC 1st Battalion, said, I got a 11 Bravo Spec 4. Do you guys want him? And they said, yeah. Okay. And that was it. Fuck yeah. So both of my experience there, it was like, getting there wasn't traditional. Yeah. It wasn't the traditional.
So they send you right to RIP then from?
No, I didn't get lucky enough for that. So I had to go to 1st Bat with a soft cap on. So we're in duty uniform and I'm wearing fucking.
Yeah, because you haven't earned the beret yet.
I haven't earned the beret yet.
You're literally the only one.
I am on everybody's radar. Like going to the chow hall, where I was exposed to the leadership of all the companies, Yeah. Oh, I dreaded it.
So when you in process to 1st Bat as someone that had not yet passed selection, did they just basically put you in like a holding pattern until you could go down there?
Like a nobody.
Of course they did.
Yeah, that's what they did. Yeah. I
mean, just so people are clear, when you show up successfully completing selection, you're still treated like a nobody.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine because that does not happen.
Right. Like they didn't know what to do with me.
I never saw one person in regiment that hadn't completed RIP or rope. It's just not how the unit works. But for whatever reason, they had an opening and said, fuck it. I guess we'll give this guy a try. And
right. And Nick the Dick.
Wait, say that again?
Billick. Oh, you're a 2nd Bat guy. So he was a 1st and 3rd Bat. He was regimental sergeant major. Okay. Yeah, so he was my platoon sergeant at the time. He was an E6 acting platoon sergeant. And when I came there, he accused me of being with CID.
Oh shit!
Because of the scenario.
Well, and to tell you the truth, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
It really triggered his paranoia. So I got treated. Nobody knew what to do with me. So I got treated badly. but I also got treated like nobody knew what they could do to me. So they just flipped me shit every chance they got.
Yeah.
You know, I had like, I'm an E4 with a Ranger tab on, without a scroll.
Yeah. Like,
so people are walking up.
What the fuck is, what is going on right now?
You know, of course I'm short, you know, I'm small. They look over me and around, like down my face. And I could just remember them going like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah. What is happening right now?
Yeah. What? Get out of my way. Like I can remember like in being like, get out of my way. who the fuck are you? Get out. You know, just be like, I have no place in life. Like the world. And so my entry into the world, which, you know, I didn't go into it, but you know, I entered a world that didn't want me. You know what I mean? There's you enter a world where you got a mom and dad that love you to death and all these things that you take for granted or you don't. And so as our brains wired and our personalities develop, you have people that grow up and go, I feel like the world doesn't want me because by and large, that's been your experience, you know? And so it was, again, a reminder. It was those kind of things are triggering and you don't realize why your internal volume or why you get so busy and nervous and consumed. And it's that fear of not being accepted and, you know, not being wanted. Those are very powerful things.
Oh, dude, for sure.
Yeah.
And if the truth be told, that's why 99% of people probably do join the military. I always say the military is just a gang. It's a gang that's government sanctioned.
Yeah.
But it appeals to the same type of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And so is law enforcement, right? I mean,
for sure.
Yeah. There's some of your best criminals decided to go in the military and law enforcement. And that's the only reason why we don't know about them. Is, you know, yeah.
So then obviously they eventually send you down to RIP. And then fucking
smoke it, class leader course.
Yeah.
I'm mature. You know, I know what I'm doing now, and I've already been to Ranger school. I mean,
you're going through RIP, with a tab.
Yeah,
Again, very unusual.
Right. So it was but it was still a smoker.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Even though I'd been through Ranger school and everything else, it was like, man, RIP kicked my ass.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, that is weird, right? Who goes to Ranger school before they go to RIP?
Yeah.
Almost nobody.
Yeah, other than officers.
Right. You know? Which they're never going to get their dick kicked in at Ranger Battalion like a private would. You know, they're never going to experience Ranger Battalion the way an enlisted would.
Typically, if you want to come to Ranger Battalion from a unit and you already are tabbed, you're an NCO or you're an officer. Right. So you go through the Ranger orientation program, not the RIP program that's kicking your balls in, you know?
That's right.
So,
it's a gentleman's course.
It's a gentleman's course to onboard NCOs and officers.
Right.
So you might be like one of the only people that's actually went through RIP with a Ranger tab.
Well, it's not common, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. It's not common. And if I'm glad that I went to RIP instead of rope. I think it would have been harder being out of the military that long and coming back and being expected how to be up to standard for
dress
patrolling.
Right, dress and I
mean, come on, let's face it. 7-8 in the Ranger Handbook. You can't take a 4-year break away from that book and then come back and lead young Rangers and have them respect you. So I didn't mind starting back out at the bottom, and I didn't mind that at all.
Yeah. So then you get back to Ranger Regiment, you're a TAP Spec 4, and now, at least in my experience, that's when the bullshit ended.
Everything went great from then on. I mean, it was just, it was straight uphill. And if it wasn't for one person, I would have stayed and got my E6 and squad leader time. But I settled with E5 team leader time and moved on to the Q course just because of how toxic the leadership was in my platoon.
Yeah.
I had great first sergeant, great company commander. General Luck's son was our company commander, and as cool as they come, Alvin Brazier, who won Best Ranger competition in 1992 with Tommy Wilburn, who's Captain America to me. He was the first sergeant, and I mean, it is as good as you could ask for, you know, but my platoon sergeant was just a really toxic person. And like I said, I wasn't a kid anymore.
Yeah.
So I did the math, and I'm going to serve, but I want to have some kind of control over that as much as possible, which is hard.
And as a tabbed Ranger NCO, you decide you want to go to SFAS, Special Forces Assessment and Selection. I think everybody can. That's not something that you have to like really fight for. If you want to do that, the option seems to be available. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they got a pretty red carpet open invitation to come try out our 21-day. Camping trip.
And I don't know how that is for other units. If that's a selection that's just, all are welcome. But I know like all of my buddies that decided to go that route, it didn't seem like there were any roadblocks.
No. And look, people can say whatever they want. And I'm not talking about the military. I'm talking about the Army when I'm speaking right now so that it's clear.
Well, you're saying, when you go from Ranger Regiment into Special Forces, I was saying like they're build that path that's fairly accessible for the guys that want to do that.
Yeah. I there was something, it came up that I was going to add to that, but that's okay. It'll come back to me. Yeah.
So then you do the 21-day SFAS. Obviously you got selected, and then is it just orders right to the Q course?
No. So, again, just like everything, I went to SFAS as a member of the 20th Special Forces National Guard unit after Desert Storm. So I had already been to selection. So I'm down in 1st Ranger Battalion, and, after a year or so, I can see, that, I've done about all I can do here. And let me put this disclaimer out there. I'm not a great example of a soldier. I'm not a great example of this, that, and the other. It's like as I've gotten older, I'm more of a critical thinker. I don't want to hitch my wagon to a fucked up plan if I don't have to.
I say it all the time on the show that I think I do know guys that did their whole career in the Ranger Regiment, and more power to them if that's the route they want to go. But I do think more often than not, Ranger Regiment is a stepping stone to get to something different.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to go aviation, and I ended up doing that after regiment. And I know a lot of guys moved to the unit, moved to SFAS. It's not a unit that like a lot of guys want to spend a whole career in. Because it's like, dude, if I'm going to do 20 years, let's see what's next. And guys that are wired like us, it seems like they kind of want to see what's next.
Right.
And so that's completely normal. That's a normal progression to attend another selection and try and like, again, as a young Ranger, everyone's talking shit on Green Berets. And then years later, when I'm homies with a bunch of them, man, that was a cool career too.
Yeah.
In fact, probably much more interesting.
Yeah. Well, it came back to me. What I was going to say a minute ago, Snake, is, excuse me, not talking about the other communities, just within the Army. The Ranger Battalion represents. So when you go look at the Green Berets, you go look at Delta Force, you go look at anything within the military that's cool and badass. The feeder program for that, if it has anything to do with special operations, is Ranger Regiment.
100%.
It's the feeder program for it. So, if you want to go to a kids wrestling or jiu-jitsu club to go to the top level, right? You want to go to the best. You want to move to the best location where they're doing the coolest shit at the highest level at the youngest age. Those kind of basic things, principles that you look at. Well, when you look at the Army, that's how I feel about it. It's like, the best advice I can give anybody, even if you want to go be a Navy SEAL, go be a Ranger first. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know that there's a better platform for a warrior class of people to learn your place, learn how important it is to be meticulous, standards, all those things that, when you just put your Oakleys on and you're in great shape and you got your cool kit, that takes about 10 minutes to do that. The real stuff takes about 10 years to learn and have a discipline for whatever. How long did it take you to become a black belt?
Yeah,
and as well as I do, man. When you become a black belt, now you're at the bottom again within the black belts. Yep. So it's a long process to be great at being a warrior.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm a big fan of that place, even though they acted like they didn't want me to ever be the military seemed like it never wanted me to be a Ranger. I'm a big fan of that place.
No, and dude, I talk about it often on the show because, when I look back at the different elements of my career over the last 20 years, a lot of time spent in different law enforcement agencies, and there's a bitter taste in my mouth for most places that I've served with, but not the regiment. Now, was there bullshit in the regiment? There was. But that's also because there's bullshit pretty much anywhere in life. But I would say the good outweighed the bad. And what I pulled from that place as a young man, I mean, I've said it a million times. If I had to go back and redo it, even knowing what I know now about the military industrial complex and the wars that we probably didn't need to be in, I also don't think I could have grown into who I am without putting myself through that and without having those hard experiences. So I think it was necessary.
Yeah.
And that's why I always will value the Ranger Regiment. It's easy to put their shortcomings on the back burner because of how much good I derive from that place.
Right.
Whereas in other agencies, it's the opposite.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And the other thing about, like the SEAL community, the Ranger community, and those types of communities, you can't fake it.
Can't fake it.
You can be, a cop, and you can fake it. You can be all these other, you can fake it. Because how often do you really get tested, evaluated, and then retested on a life-threatening scenario?
Yeah.
It happens intermittently to certain people in areas where there's a high probability for that. But how many people do that every other day?
Yeah.
Like you would in war.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Well, bro, and that's another reason why to this day I love jiu-jitsu, because it's the same thing. You can't fake it.
Yeah.
And you can show up here with whatever color belt you want, and then the mats don't lie. The mats will tell each other who each other is and where you're at, and there's nothing left for discussion. And that feels good, right?
Oh, it's a beautiful thing to watch a guy come in here puffed up like a rooster and have some regular looking guy come in here and just wad him up like chewing gum. It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful thing. To see that your eyes aren't always correct with that stereotypical image of what a warrior looks like. Because you and I both know some of the baddest dudes out there, and I'm not one of them, but some of the baddest dudes out there, you'd never know it.
You'd never fucking
You'd never know it, man. You never know it. They would never carry on like one of those guys in the gym.
Yeah.
They would never carry on like that.
And not just the baddest motherfuckers when it comes to tactics and it comes to like the actual tasks of the profession. But dude, I remember there were Rangers that kind of looked like a bag of shit that could out PT the fuck out of me.
Oh, I know.
And it didn't make sense because it's like, that's where I realized fitness and body composition are two very different things. Because a guy looks good, that doesn't mean he is good.
That's right.
And vice versa. Like and obviously I'm friends with a couple of them to this day.
No, but you're
it's like
so
when you
right.
take their shirt off, you wouldn't think special operations soldier. And then he runs my dick right into the fucking dirt. Dude.
Absolutely. Road marches you into the ground, down to your knee, right? And you're just like, and then he lights up a cigarette. You're like, I just want to shoot myself. Yeah. And so you're in a special place trying to hold your own, and you feel like a worthless piece of shit. And there, 98% of the men in the world are down here somewhere when you think about where you are on the man, the man's ranking. And so you're in this environment where you feel very substandard, and you're anything but substandard. It's a very interesting dynamic that you deal with.
Andy Stumpf has a phrase he always uses, and he was in DevGru. You know what I mean? So same thing, a path that took him to a very, very elite unit. And he said, no matter where I was at in my career, I always consider myself average at best.
Yeah. What a great philosophy. That's
average at best.
Yeah.
But you're average at best in the top 0.0001 percentile,
right.
Which is, but that's you. If you don't hold that mentality, again, in jiu-jitsu, we call it like always be a white belt. Right. Because that's the thing. It's like, as soon as you think you're the big dick in the room, that's when the wheels fall off.
Well, the energy changes, right? Your energy changes, and the way the universe responds to that, it's going to teach you a lesson.
For sure, man.
You need to learn another lesson. Yeah.
How long did you do with Special Forces then?
So when you talk about Special Forces as in the Green Berets, because I know it's confusing to civilians.
No.
So that's why I know what the difference. But
so after
the Green Berets, that was about 4 years or so, and I had a surgery on my bladder that the military is a malpractice situation.
Oh,
but
fuck.
You can't sue, so they just put me out, and that started
a downward.
Well, I mean it's. I went back in the military a second time that was going to be my life. I was going to raise my family. I wanted security, with my childhood and everything else. And
well, I'm curious too, did you enjoy your position and your job as a special forces soldier?
No.
Okay.
No. So
Man, I was hoping you'd say yes.
I know. Right. So here's the thing with me. And that's why I say I'm not a great example of a soldier, whatever. Is like, I'm just not a Boy Scout is what I've learned. And, I wanted to be in those cool clubs, and I wanted to, as a short little redheaded freckled kid growing up, I wanted to prove that I was a man and just like everybody else, and how do you do that, when you come from nothing, you don't have many opportunities, and so I just took advantage. I was an opportunist in those parts of my life.
Okay.
It was an opportunity, and I was just going to take advantage of it. But when I but I was also like you, it's like I wasn't going to quit shit.
Yeah.
Like just like when I did the Appalachian Trail, it's like they will find me. I've lived too long to have a conversation with somebody with why I didn't complete this.
Yeah.
Like I'm not having that. I can't picture that conversation anymore.
Bro, I fucking totally forgot about this, and maybe it was planned for years, but I just heard about it spur of the moment. Like, I'm walking the whole Appalachian Trail.
It was a want. I planned it in 2 weeks. From the time I decided to do it, and it was on the southern start point, the Springer Mountain in Georgia, was 2 weeks.
Okay, so that's about spur of the moment as a fucking.
The only training I did, I went from eating white donuts, powdered donuts, and beer, and sitting on a couch, crackers. I was house sitting for Cracker, watching his dog, and he was over in Iraq, and I was living there for free, drinking beer, eating donuts, and I got the bright idea. I was watching 1st Ranger Battalion's Facebook page, and they had a father and son that had started the Appalachian Trail. And I was like, holy cow.
I'm doing that.
2 weeks later, I was at the start point from the time I saw that post. And so the only training I did getting ready for that was going to REI. How many ever trips it took me back and forth to go shopping or whatever.
And I just pack in your boots.
My backpack was 46 pounds. So for guys like us, that's nothing. Put that on, nothing. That's a lot.
When you've been out of the game?
It's a lot to carry on a through hike. With that kind of stuff. It's not a lot. It's not a lot to say, hey,
a 3-day patrol.
Put 46 pounds on and go do 25 miles. Okay. That's not a lot of weight for a 25 miler, right?
Yeah.
But as you benefit, let me choose my words correctly. As you benefit from this hike, part of that benefit is you don't need all that weight. It's almost a metaphor. Like the better and healthier and the more connected you get on that trail, it's like the less you really do need.
Oh, I see.
It's a figurative and a literal thing that happens that happened to me organically.
You just become more content with less.
Yeah, and it literally comes down to a feeling and a mindset, but also like, I mean, you look at it from any angle.
Let me ask you this, because we talked about this again last night in regards to both warfare and athletics, just finding your flow state.
Oh yeah.
Is there an Appalachian flow state when
that was the second time in my life I ever felt it.
Oh, okay.
So here's the thing, right? If you don't know about what you're talking about and you experience it, you might experience it a couple times until somebody talks to you about it and you go, oh, that's a thing. Yeah. It has a name. Other people experience, oh, it's called the flow state. And then you grow another level then. Now it's like, oh, I connected the dots.
Yeah.
And you start growing that part. And so when we do get to the Team Miami, Iraq, Ramadi 2004, where you and I met and served together, I had the privilege to serve with you. That was the first time I think I felt real.
Yeah.
Like there was no future of the past. There was no everything was real.
Yeah.
And it either mattered a lot or it didn't.
Think about
Right,
that.
right.
Think about, bro. That might be the most fucking powerful statement of the episode, because, and you know what? Well, we can fucking revisit fucking flow state and you being a Green Beret, but when you and I met in Ramadi in 04, that's a perfect way to describe it. Things around you either mattered with every ounce of importance of your being, or it didn't fucking matter at all.
No, it's so easy. So simple.
So simple. I tell people that often when they're, because, you know, like, I don't get it as much anymore because the war's 20 years removed. But when I came back from Ramadi and killing fuckers and went through some shit, man, everybody wanted to know, what's it like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, it's fucking nuts that when we all got there, because it was so dangerous, it actually made it fucking easy.
And it was the highlight of my life. You know, that was like, I'm currently in a good place in my life, but like nothing from a career standpoint or, you know, manning up standpoint. There's nothing that compares to 2014 Miami, which for those of your viewers out there, Triple Canopy, the original teams with Triple Canopy, one of them was Team Miami, and we were out in Ramadi together. And, yeah, I think, hopefully we have an opportunity, Snake, that when this podcast is over, people know what it was like to be a part of Team Miami.
Yeah.
And that type of war, because I don't know that there's much out there at all for a protection team that operated the way we did. I mean, I can sit down with me, you, Sunshine, Double A, and a handful of other peoples, and between us, we killed 50 or 60 people in line of duty.
Yeah, dude.
On a protection.
I laugh, but it's
no,
fucking
and
real,
those numbers
bro.
are conservative. Most people inflate those numbers. Those numbers are conservative. I'm going, okay, let's knock that number down a little bit. You know.
So, dude, let's jump right into Ramadi.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I'm going to preface this with, because, you know, a lot of my listeners probably know that I served in a paramilitary capacity contracting for the United States government. So when we're referring to going over there with Team Miami, what we were former special operations soldiers that were selected to run security details for the United States government, specifically at that time was the State Department. And State Department's mission inside of Iraq is they had ambassadors and they had like people that were going to the different provinces throughout Iraq to help structure a Western government, basically. And on one hand, the United States thought that a Western government would be a great thing to add to the Middle East. And on the other hand, the Middle Eastern countries were fucking adamantly against that. And that is why our principal was such a targeted man, because he was bringing Western ideology to Al-Qaeda Iraq.
We were protecting the devil.
Straight up, bro.
In their eyes, we were literally protecting the devil.
Yeah. And so in Ramadi and Fallujah, and you can look on a map, those two cities are neighboring cities. And it was basically the same thing happening back and forth, because as soon as shit would get real heavy in Iraq or in Fallujah, they'd all push to Ramadi.
Yeah,
and then when shit would get real heavy in Ramadi, it'd push them back to Fallujah. Right. And Fallujah was the city that always got all the recognition because of some major incidents that took place there. But it was all the same. And Ramadi wasn't on the map until Jocko.
Yeah, no.
Now Ramadi's on the fucking map. No, and I'm sure
Jocko and his friends that chewed the same dirt we did over there will tell you Ramadi was as tough as anywhere.
Yeah,
that was a tough place to do business. It was a very tough place to do business. You know, Camp Fallujah. I think the Blackwater guys that sadly were hung from that bridge did bring a lot of attention to Fallujah. There's no doubt. But there was no difference between Ramadi and Fallujah. They were the same fighters.
Yeah.
Like you said,
literally the same human beings.
They would get housing and support in Fallujah, and then Mattis would turn the heat up on those known areas and activities, and they would migrate down Route Michigan right back to Ramadi.
Yeah.
And then the same thing would happen in Ramadi, and they'd go back and forth until the first battle of Fallujah and Ramadi and the second battle of Fallujah and Ramadi, those were both attacks that addressed both of those cities simultaneously because of that point you just made.
Yeah. And so, you know, we've talked about selections and whatnot for the last hour, and Triple Canopy was no different. So for listeners to understand, and this was like the first time this had happened in history.
Yeah.
You know, like there was ages in contracting security companies, but to put together teams of former special forces, special operations guys and send them into battle, this was fucking uncharted territory at the time. And so a group of unit guys, a group of Delta Force guys literally basically just had the idea, hey, we know the baddest, most tactical motherfuckers in the world. Let's make a civilian company and put together our protection details outside of the government and contract them back to the government. And the government's like, yeah, sounds good. And so this Triple Canopy was born. And now all of a sudden I went from making E5 pay to I think $28K a month or something out of the gates.
Yeah.
You know, the shift leaders in the AICs were a K a day. And you got a bunch of dudes that were E6s, E7, E5s, E6s, and E7s now thrown right back into combat with way more money and way more autonomy. You could literally do whatever you wanted. And they didn't even have laws like we talked about last night.
There legally wasn't a law. There wasn't a law against killing Iraqis. There was no law against us killing them when we first got there.
We didn't fall under Iraqi law, and we didn't fall under UCMJ. And it was like, well, what do we fucking do with these guys?
Yeah.
You know? And it was wild. Yeah. Wild times.
And I'll tell you, it was successful.
Yeah.
It was successful when they allow those organizations to do what they hired them to do. It works really well when they start trying to, as things stabilize and they try to control.
Yeah, but start putting red tape.
That's why you can't be at the front of those things and then at the middle, at the end, and still be satisfied at the end.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're in the beginning of those things, a guy that comes in the middle of it, he doesn't know what it used to be. All he knows is what he signed on for, and it's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
The guy that was there before has seen all these many changes and how many losses and hits you've taken, and then by the time you're towards the end, the military hated contractors.
Yeah,
dude, they didn't hate us when we were there, did they? We didn't hate them. You know what I mean? When we started in 2004, the military and now I'm talking about outside of the wire, working with the military and civilians or contractors. We were one team.
One team, bro. Yeah.
There was no question. I mean, we got shot at a bunch of times, but it was accidents.
Yeah.
But we did get shot at a lot by that.
I say it all the time. The U.S. Army and the U.S. Marine Corps has probably shot more bullets at me than Al Qaeda Iraq, because, bro, we were in fucking not low pro vehicles, but Mercedes and fucking sedans, BMWs. Now a lot of locals also have those cars. So now it's like, they don't know who we are, and it just causes confusion is what it causes.
Well, it's always when you see a bad guy in the Middle East in the movies, he's always driving a black Mercedes or a black BMW. So we just fit the profile.
And bro, those kids were getting chewed the fuck up, man.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those platoons in Ramadi were taking 30% casualties on a 6-month rotation. Like that's gnarly,
and of course that's why.
And so those kids, they're not like, if there's even a possibility we're a threat, not even a probability, just fuck that car, get away from me. You know what I mean? Like I get that too.
Well, the stories, some of the stories that I like telling when we talk about this period and how profoundly it was one team was, when we first got there and you were there. And we were downtown. It was the first battle of Fallujah and Ramadi, and it was all day long.
Yeah, spring of 2004.
You could hear the bullets flying overhead all day long, and the medevac flares going up all day long. Like every time one went up, you knew a Marine just got fucked up, right? And it's just all day long. Well, we went across the street and started clearing buildings with Marines that day because they had lost so many people. We were a protection detail,
bro. Yeah,
there to protect Ambassador Stu Jones.
Yeah,
we had nothing to do with any kind of direct action, military, whatever, but it was the right thing to do. Well, those were our brothers. We weren't Marines and contractors or Rangers or whatever. It's like we were just Americans.
Yeah,
and
I do remember there was a couple incidents where the military leadership did kind of look at us sideways, and then we learned very quickly by mutually supporting each other, particularly the day we were on the bank and we killed those 4 dudes in that black sedan.
Yeah.
Remember that first sergeant was angry with me?
Oh, I didn't know that part. No, I didn't. I remember that day very well. I didn't know that.
Yeah, first sergeant like peeked up his head on the roof and was like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?" And I explained the situation. And he goes, "I got fucking Marines overwatching that same area. They didn't call anything in." And I said, respectfully, I'm like, "First sergeant, your Marines have been watching the same street for probably 3 days. We've been here 30 minutes. We're just a fresh set of eyes."
Not just that, but that taxi had just shot at me in Pigpen.
Yeah.
And circled back around, and y'all gave them what they had coming.
And bro, so he fucking...
Yeah, so how do you deal with that? You got a military leader in combat arguing with you about doing the right thing. That's crazy.
So right? when they shot the squad out there and did a BDA, they found the car loaded with RPGs.
Yeah,
and then it was like
AK, 2 AKs.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, these guys are on the same. They're not being cowboys.
That's right.
This is real shit, you know." Yeah. And then I know. I don't think it ever officially took place, but remember, like we had comms with all of the Marines downtown in case we needed to be a medevac or provide fucking Overwatch. Yeah,
I think Rancher put a lot of that in place. If it wasn't already,
like we were willing to QRF them if necessary, and so it built a relationship that's like, I mean, really, we were all just together, whatever,
That's true. Do you remember? Rancher created the figure 8 of death for all new guys. We run this route so everybody knew the city kind of inside and out.
Over by,
remember the last time we had that
soccer stadium?
Yeah.
And shit.
So remember the last time y'all killed those 2 guys, the cat team killed those 2 guys that jumped out. Okay. When we came around that corner and we stopped and I got out and did the face-to-face with the military, I don't know if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
We come around, I stopped and I jumped out, did a face-to-face real quick. That whole thing was what you were saying. Is that actually the military was watching us, and when they saw them attack us and us attack back, they were responding to help us.
Yeah.
So they corridored us, even though, we didn't require that, but they went ahead and, because if they hadn't stopped us, we would have just went on and gone anyway.
Yeah.
But they made sure we got through that corridor safely after that. So it was a beautiful thing. The coolest thing I ever did. And I'm assuming you probably remember this day well. It's that same day, but it was the first time I had an opportunity to really do anything with the 2-4 Marines, and who I have a great deal of respect for. I know you do too. When they had so many casualties that there were no more air evacs, and they didn't have any ground transportation or whatever, and without hesitation, it was like. All the 18 Deltas jumped in the back seat. Verb jumped up to drive because he's a SEAL medic. And Smuggler, who you and I both adore, jumped front right. And we drove to the sound of gunfire. No maps, no GPS, just drove towards the soccer stadium. And at that point, none of us had ever been to the soccer stadium. And so that's why after that happened, where we were going to rescue that Marine.
We started.
That's why
route recon started happening.
Started the figure 8. Is he's like nobody's ever. I loved his philosophy on things. Like he was a great mentor, but it was like also we were on the same sheet of music. Like what he was putting out is what I would put down, and so it justified every time we got some new guys on the team to run that route through the city so everybody could see the key points that you may be driving or running to or away from, because it's not a question of when, right? Just like what Rancher said. If you haven't, Rancher used to tell everybody, and I just did the same thing when I took over the team. If you ain't never been shot at or you ain't never shot anybody, don't worry, you will. And I don't know if there's a more profound, you could talk about football speeches before the big game, or, the speech that, the speech that Doctor gave us when we were going out to Ramadi day one. He said, if you don't have the person you're protecting, Stu Jones, the Godfather, if you don't have him with you and they shoot at you, chase them down and kill them. Yeah. That's all he said. Chase them down and kill them. And I just remembered that. And so I thought that was about as profound a statement as I had heard over there until, that one. Yeah.
That's fucking, dude. And anytime Rancher comes up, I always have to tell the story because to this day, it doesn't make sense that his brain was a GPS.
Yeah.
I've never seen a human being like that.
Yeah.
Like he'd be like, hey, 200 feet ahead, there's going to be an alleyway. Take a left down that alleyway. And I remember it was like, it had been a place we'd never been before.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's a machine.
And I'm like, how the fuck did you know all that? And he goes, oh, when I was active duty, I drove through here like 4 years ago or something.
Yeah.
And you remember an alley? Like the way his brain fucking mapped out cities and shit. That's like, it's really fucking incredible, dude.
Oh, he's a special guy. And he's comes from an organization that's full of special guys like that. I mean, when we talk about, I know most civilians or the lay person will look at any special operations and see them as equals, but the community is just as diverse within the community. It's not everybody's equul. You've got really good Green Berets and really.
It's like, sorry, it's always a jiu-jitsu analogy. But
no, please.
It's black belts.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Black belts, you could say, are the special operations. And then you got guys like my coach who you'll meet tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
Who have eaten black belts. For breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the last 10 years.
Yeah, the actual tier one, the top
That's
shelf,
what I'm saying.
The handful. So you and I have been exposed to these guys, and we realize how rare it is. Like, there are some special people out there, and it ain't me, but I've seen them. And there's not a lot of them, but they're special. And Rancher's one of those.
So, dude, talking about being able to kind of just piggyback off the military and hop in with them, and I guarantee you this kind of shit's never been done again. Just letting civilians, remember, we weren't obligated for any type of base or perimeter security. But we'd go crawl up in the guard towers just to look for dudes to shoot with the Marines. And they welcomed it. And not only like private so-and-so manning a sector, even the fucking high-ranking officers and shit were like, cool, we got another set of eyes up here. Like, can you imagine doing that as a civilian 10 years later? You know what I mean? Even because my last contract was 2009, which even in that 5-year period, things changed dramatically.
Yeah.
And dude, we could just crawl up in a guard tower and shoot people and nobody fucking cared, dude.
Yeah.
Like, we shot those dudes from the guard tower across the river.
Yeah.
Were you still there? Were you? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a good example. When you and I first got there, the ROE allowed you to shoot police officers. Okay. Now we shot a few of them, didn't we? Yes. I think me and you were in on a couple of them together. Now,
well, that's because the intel had suggested that the IPs were they just throw a blue shirt on and they're still working for Al Qaeda Iraq. Like, that's what was happening.
So what they did on the body field recovery, over 60% of the dead enemy had Iraqi police ID badges.
Well, there you go.
So, killing bad people is what somebody, that gravitates towards, that kind of stuff. But, we'll get into the different types of killers out there, but, there are good types of people out there that kill. Killing isn't, for us, it's like you try to explain to people, it's like, why do you think it makes me a bad person? Because I would want to kill bad people. I would never want to kill somebody that's not bad. It's not people like us that go and shoot up high schools.
Yeah.
Those are
bro, I think
those are weak little, yeah.
I think the reason why killing people was so fun is because we have this mutual agreement. I think you're the bad guy. And guess what? They think we're the bad guy. And it's just agreed upon that
ultimate predatorial sport.
That we're going to go out into this fucking city of rubble.
Yeah.
And guess what? They could turn around and go home if they wanted.
Right.
We could have too. We weren't obligated. We were fucking civilians.
Right.
Everybody was there because they wanted to be there and they wanted to try and kill each other.
Right.
That's fascinating, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, it is. I mean, you're the first person that ever knocked on my door in my career that said, "Hey, Sonny, it's been 2 or 3 days, man. We got to get back downtown." You know, when you're jonesing over killing bad people to where you come to your boss's door and knock on it and say that. But I remember that, and I remember thinking, he's like, he's right. He's like, dude, we got to get back out there and go back to work.
Well, it's a perfect segue because when you talked about being in the flow state and on the Appalachian Trail, or we touched on it in regards to athletics, Ramadi 04 with that team of men, everything was understood of what people's strengths and weaknesses were. Everything was understood, like fucking, if things went bad, how people would react. Nobody ever showed any fear or cowardice. It was just always everybody filling their job to the correct capacity, without egos, without fucking posturing. Like, yeah, sure, certain people were in charge, but no one ever had to act like they were in a leadership position because it was all big boy rules. And when Pigpen said, "Hey, I need you to grab these 2 cars, blah, blah, blah," it's like, that's just mission planning. I went on vacation with him, as did you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, that dude's a former unit sergeant major.
Yeah.
And now I'm fucking drinking beer with them in Prague.
Oh yeah, no, these are guys.
He's my boss.
Yeah, these are guys. He was chasing Pablo Escobar as a unit guy. You know, we're with Smuggler, who was in Beirut. You know, during the time when that was he. You know, we're with guys. I think Pee Wee and of course Mad Max when you talk about the beginning and selection and all that. But you know, that was. I'm
glad everyone has call signs. Hopefully that's allowed.
Yeah. So. You know, they did that protection deal for Schwarzkopf. But let me tell you, that those things have nothing to do with what we were doing. Like doing protection in an active war zone.
But I think that's why when you say like you reflect on this team as like the highlight of your your operating career. Me too, man. Yeah. Because, dude, there wasn't 1 ounce of fat on that team or dead weight.
That's a good way to put it.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a good way to put it.
Every person there was happy to be there. Every person there was fucking like down for what needed to happen. The things that needed to happen would be taken care of. And everybody got along, dude.
Yeah, and if you didn't, you went back to Baghdad.
Yeah.
You know this is true because I know you saw it several times, and I know I got to say it time. If a handful of guys that were already vetted on the team came to anybody in leadership and say, "Hey, this guy ain't the right dude," we went to Baghdad once or twice a week usually. Or whenever that next Baghdad trip was, it'd be on the shift leaders board for that person to have their shit packed and ready to go.
And you know what's funny is I know that happened a handful of times, and when I think back on this experience, those guys aren't even in my memory bank.
I know. I can't remember some of them's call signs.
I think about our core group of guys that kind of really saw it through, you know, from the early days to the very end before, Blackwater took outbid the contract, and then that was the end.
And you were there I was there for the end of Triple Campy, that handoff.
Yeah.
And you were there for that beginning of Blackwater. And that's a very interesting chapter of that story too, with the things that went on there. Just crazy.
Yeah.
That year in Ramadi, or that 14 months or whatever total it was. And like you said, guys like you, AA, Pigpen, Rancher, there's guys that, were there a year or whatever. I mean, they spent, they spent real time on that team and
all together,
and gone through different phases that team went through. And, out of all those guys, it's like, I really do love them. I really do love them.
Yeah.
The guys that we've already been mentioning, whatever. It's like, just like with you, it's like you have your friends you grow up with, you have whatever. And then if you're lucky enough to have an experience like Team Miami, Ramadi 04, then you have this special group.
Well, and the other thing that is like, you can't replicate it outside of that environment is we literally thought every day might be our last.
Yeah, it made it easier.
Like literally. So it wasn't like, I mean, to the point where like, you remember Pipe Bomb's like, I eat fries and ice cream every night because I'm dying tomorrow.
Dude, can I tell that story?
Yeah. So you can tell whatever story you want.
Yeah. So Pipe Bomb, aka Pipe, once he went from Triple Canopy to Blackwater, some of you guys know who that is. So we were roommates when we first got there, and Fixed Sight, which they went downtown before we did. Mm-hmm. So their first day downtown to do their site assessment and figure out what they needed to stand up that place properly. And so for the audience out there, we had just got to Ramadi, and we were in charge of providing security for Ambassador Stu Jones and the government complex.
Yeah, so we were basically, for lack of a better term, we're setting up a patrol base downtown Ramadi.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
And fucking right off of Route Michigan. Like,
oh, listen, there's no way we can explain how dangerous both of those locations were. I mean, like they would just drive by and throw shit over the wall, blowing people up. Like it was like the bases in the city, both the government center and Camp Blue Diamond.
Yeah,
we're only separated from like a 6 or 8 foot fence or something from Ramadi. I mean, you're right in the, so it's, call it a base if you want to. I mean, they couldn't just come eat in our mess hall whenever they wanted to, but they could shoot or try to kill us just about any time they wanted to.
And so like, we touched on it, why we were targeted because of who we were protecting and the ideology and all that stuff. Right.
No, you're right. Oh.
But it's interesting that once we became a known element and we became targeted, it wasn't just because of Stu Jones. Like even they called us the half beards because remember, like they all had the full beards.
Yeah.
And the U.S. military guys are clean shaven, but these guys, these are half beards. What is this? Because I remember our interpreters told us that. And then it became a thing where like they wanted to kill the half beards. Like they wanted us. Yeah. They were saying there was like
we were the only game in town.
There was money on our fucking heads from Al Qaeda Iraq, and the interpreters, and half of them are literally living in the cities.
Yeah.
And like it's just dinner table talk out there. Yeah. And then they'd come and tell us in the morning. I was like, and that's how we caught wind of August 10th, right?
Yeah, well, because
that's the day we really that's the most substantial damage we took.
Up to that point,
other than day one, remember when the Suburban
lost 3 vehicles. All right,
yeah.
But I would say yes, probably what makes August 10th the biggest, such a big deal is it was a legitimate full on attack. There's no question that.
Oh, bro,
we were in a situation where.
The whole city
we all could have died right there. There's no doubt about it. It was a legitimate attack.
I've described it before as that scene in Clear and Present Danger where
they do the stop and block. Yeah,
they block them in, and everybody's on the rooftops.
And then the RPGs,
because they were on both sides of us, bro.
Right.
And not only were they strategically placed on the buildings, but they'd block the roads to force the vehicles to go to these
That's right.
Well, the X.
That's exactly
for lack of a better term.
Because when I saw the 4 guys with the AK-47s on my left, when we first initially pulled in there, where we were was perfectly positioned to where they had a wall here and a wall here opening for like the driveway, and they were positioned where they could just hit that zone where we were at.
And so to take it back to the government center, we'll just walk through August 10th ambush step by step. But someone had caught wind. One of our interpreters,
the governor Ramadi's interpreter, went to our interpreter, and the interpreter we had at that point was really in the know. It was questionable.
Yeah,
it was questionable which side he really worked for. But they both came to Smuggler. I was shadowing Smuggler, and they both came to him and said, gunmen are lining the streets. to kill y'all. And we had heard that before.
Yeah.
I know we'd all heard that before, but they were scared.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't just say it going, like they stayed there. They were like, no, like, so it was like, holy shit. It's like, damn, that's very different than every other time that they have told us that gunmen are lying in the streets to kill us. And more to that, you know, at that time, and Jocko could probably speak to this. I'm not sure if he was there right after. But where he was and the agency guys were just across the water, that little special compound or whatever, those guys weren't even rolling anymore. That's how dangerous Ramadi was to be in a civilian vehicle without military support operating, is nobody was doing it except us. Those one, was it AGs or what was that agency that came in beside us in those bunker buildings? They went out the first time, got their ass handed to them, just like another day in Ramadi. It's like, one vehicle down, the other one, you're lucky to be alive. Yep, that's a normal day in Ramadi. They never went back out the wire again. They sat there for a year and drawed a paycheck, and they never went back out. So we were the only, during that time, we were the only game in town. We were the only non-military organization in Ramadi that was getting up every day and putting our mouthpiece in and going to work. Yeah.
And so they told us, they said they're going to kill you on your way home today.
So, like, so it was believable. It was believable that day.
And so it was already like head on a swivel, guys, you know? And as we're starting our route home, they started funneling us very quickly it became very obvious very quickly, because it's like, I remember it was a forced right turn. Remember they had... It
was absolutely, the traffic was stopped. We had to go left.
That's what I'm saying.
We had to go left coming out, and then we got there and we had to go right.
Yeah.
Which was the alternate route. So they already had our primary exit blocked off.
And then remember they blocked off the next route. And that's when it's like, dude, now our route has been dictated on 2 occasions now. We gotta get the fuck out of here. And it was Johnny Bravo, right, up front, that was like, or was it? No, it was Pigpen
was driving. And Johnny Bravo
like,
was front right.
And he's like, we gotta reverse out.
Yeah, we gotta get. Yeah, this ain't right. Yeah,
we'll go back to the government center if we have to.
Yeah,
this no longer. We can't continue. It's already, you know. Yeah. And fucking, how many yards were we away from certain death when that decision was made? Literally.
The whole entire team was on the X.
Yes. But I think what they wanted was like 30 more yards before they initiated.
Oh, we surprised them.
That's what I'm saying.
I think we caught them off guard because we left early. So you remember he said, y'all need to leave. And 5 minutes later, we're gone. I don't think, because we had just got to the government center. And when, you know, that's at least a 2 or 3 hour visit typically if you're really doing counter surveillance, you know, or doing surveillance on us. And so we were there no time. So the 4 guys that I saw had me dead to rights. They looked as surprised to see me in that moment as I did to see them. I think those few seconds that we caught them, like, holy shit, they're here. I think that made so. I think that's the difference between a couple vehicles not getting burned with the bodies right there. But,
for sure, bro.
But we were all committed to that space, because when Bags got shot on the left side of my car, when his window got shot up, that was literally a couple hundred yards from there on the other side of the road. So they were on both sides. They were positioned. If we would have
150 meter yard.
If we would have started losing vehicles in that scenario and fight on foot, they had too many angles on us.
Yeah, that would have been gnarly.
And that was a sketchy area anyways. It was not there wouldn't have been that wouldn't have been a good outcome at all.
Well, and bro, like I remember when the RPG guy popped out and Johnny saw him put it out over the radio, you know?
The one running, he saw it.
And then another one got shot at your vehicle, and fuck, dude, I was telling the story to the jiu-jitsu guys last night. It fucking hit right under the vehicle, detonated, flattened all 4 tires, and blew out the gas tank.
Blew out the gas line, yeah.
And unlike Hollywood, where that would have been a giant explosion, the gas just sprayed all over the fucking concrete. And I remember being behind you guys, that car dripped gas like it was dumping gas the rest of the way home, dude. and never ignited.
Right. And thank God
And
for the technology that they use, that they've learned.
And then also the run flats.
Right.
Yeah, because all your tires were all popped, but the run flats fucking work. I mean, I forget how much farther we had to get back to base, but it's never more than, we're
2 or 3 miles. Yeah, 2 or 3 miles.
And fucking everything worked. Yeah. I mean, your fucking car, did you ever count how many bullet holes were in it? I mean, I wouldn't even.
No, but do you remember when we drove that back to trade it out? 1-for-1 trade? I was wrapped. Do you remember I was wrapped in Kevlar? Yeah. I had fire extinguishers strapped beside me. There was nobody else in the car. Yeah. Rancher was driving behind, and the only plan is we were going to drive as fast as we could. He had spare gas in the other vehicle, so it wouldn't ignite in my vehicle in case my vehicle caught on fire. And we were going to go as fast as we could. And if my car caught on fire, Rancher was going to be driving right behind it so he could tell me, so I could pull over and get out of the thing. Because, it would catch on fire. I probably wouldn't be able to see it for a little while.
So for people that are wondering, so you're not confused, that was not during the ambush.
No,
that was after we were trying to move the car from one secure location to another secure location to get repaired.
They said the only way we could get another armored vehicle to replace it, because it was totaled,
is if
we get them the old one. So that was one of the most dangerous things I probably did over there.
Yeah, dude.
And it was just so that we could, the logistics of getting another vehicle was to trade out the old one.
So I remember after we got back to base and was inspecting the car, and the August 10th ambush is really what kind of started to make me feel invincible, and almost to a fault, right? Because those cars got chewed up like Swiss cheese, and everybody's completely fine. RPG detonate under us, everybody's fine. No one even got a fucking scratch, dude. And the windows are literally just completely spider webbed.
Yeah.
And it started to feel like, oh, all this shit really works. I'm good, man.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about you guys anymore. And then I remember we found the fucking bullet in the headrest of your seat.
Yeah, no.
The only one that actually penetrated the armor. It hit like right along the door seam.
Yeah.
And fucking penetrated.
How many inches?
Yeah, probably 3 inches in the back of your head and lodged into the headrest.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, so many close calls like that continued to happen. And then everybody came out unscathed. And then another close call, and everybody comes out unscathed. And it was like, I don't think we can lose.
Yeah.
As part of that flow state. Not only am I feeling like the mission and the operating tempo was just this fucking magic, but I started to I think most of us started to believe almost like a godlike fucking status.
I think that's a good way of putting it.
I remember you walking down the fucking Jersey barriers on top of the wall saying, fucking shoot at me.
I had one intention.
I'm drawing someone out by fire because let's fucking try and find someone to kill. Shoot at me.
Snake, I was so sad leaving. I did not want to leave the team. I know we were going on vacation, but I was leaving the team.
Yeah.
And I had one reason for being up there. I wanted that Ramadi sniper to shoot at me. And I know the next year, one of your friends, Bama, standing right there beside where I was, got killed. Rest his soul. But that's what I wanted.
That's what I'm saying, man.
That's what I wanted.
We were doing so much more reckless, egregious shit, and everybody continued to just be fine. Yeah. And then it's just like you said, we'd do hey, do you guys just want to drive around the city until we get ambushed? Yeah, let's go. And a bunch of dudes would go. And I remember one time, the conversation was, hey, this is outside of our job scope. This isn't expected of anyone, but a group of us want to just kind of go out and see what we can get into. Everybody was down with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's a fucking...
Get 10 of your friends in the civilian sector be down with something that serious and stick together. It doesn't happen.
Yeah. And I think that's why
it's such a beautiful thing, and it's so rare. I'm 57 years old. I've been on one. Now my team in Ranger Battalion, beautiful guy, loved him, whatever. But it's still nothing compared to the experience I had, that one experience on that one team. And if I didn't have that experience, I would have spent my whole life in service and never really had
what you're
that
looking
experience, what we're able to talk about and feel. Like I feel all this like it's yesterday, man. It was like, that was such, and the problem was,
bro, it's a combination of being around really, really, really great human beings with the stakes being really, really, really high, because now every moment we share together is literally everything.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what fucking bonds people so hard in those kind of experiences. And I think, I mean, I've talked about it on the show a lot. I think that's what PTSD is. I don't think PTSD is, fuck, I shot a guy and it's haunting me. Now, do certain people have went through, like I had my friend Brian Ray on, another Green Beret, who accidentally killed kids on a call for fire.
Oh yeah, that's tough.
Haunts him.
Tough.
Right?
That's tough.
Yeah, bro.
That's tough.
And he said he pulled the blanket back and it was an 8 and 10-year-old boy and his sons were back home and they were 8 and 10.
That's tough.
You know what I'm saying? There can be a dark thing that occurs that does haunt you. But I think where most soldiers fail is they found that flow state with some great men and they were doing something that felt extremely important. And then when you take that away, that being their Super Bowl, they're not ever looking for the next thing. Guys like us have to always look for the next thing.
You brought that up the other day and you're getting to make that point again. And I agree with you 100%. The therapy and part of the cure for PTSD is having the next thing, your passion and your purpose have to intersect again on something.
Yeah.
You can't have that.
And bro, it can't be a comparison game either.
Yeah.
Why would I let the fact that I got to have a really, really, really great experience in 2004 with a really good group of human beings, why should I allow that to then detract from my future?
Yeah.
Like, take that experience for what it is. And maybe you get something similar again. Maybe you don't. Either way, that's cool that you got it, you know? But I know for me, man, jiu-jitsu being my next mission, I'm completely satisfied. I don't need Ramadi anymore because I already had it.
Yeah.
And now it's on to the next fucking mission.
Yeah. And you look, by the way, Snake, I mean, you look, you know, from a yoga teacher standpoint, looking in your eyes and being around you and whatever, and like, you look great, man.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. And it shows you've got a beautiful energy and what you're doing is beautiful. You surrounded, like, you know, I quote in the book, you know, what I learned from 2004 was a principle of life that I subscribe to now that you're actually doing. And it's living proof. Surround yourself with amazing people. Do your best just to keep up with them. Mm-hmm. And every fucking little thing else will take care of itself. You don't have to worry. Just wake up every day and stay on the path of being a good person. Surround yourself with good person. Everything else just works itself. Everything else is just life.
Yeah.
You know, but if you can do that, you're setting yourself up for success in the best way you can, because having great people and great friends in your life is a very important part of this adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, like, for a lot of people that had a hard time finding that connection with human beings, now it's the next step after that is darkness.
So they become more toxic, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You're right. So you don't fit in and you find the little niche, which I don't think was either one of us.
No.
I was social fit. You know, I could have done it, but there is those few folks that they don't fit in, and then they do fit in, you know, in a sociopathic kind of way where they get the green light to be a monster. And then they can't be a monster anymore. So I think that has a lot to do with the problem as well, is what the military, especially special operations, especially contracting, especially during the wartime when everything's a green light, you get to decide, you know, you get to decide kind of, and you get to meet your real monster.
Yeah.
How many people get to meet their real monster, get to step back day after day of scenarios and whatever and go, you know, wow, what kind of monster am I? You know, or this is what kind of monster I am. And so, yeah, I think when people are allowed to be monstrous, who want to be monstrous for the sake of being monstrous, that's their thing, which to me are bad people. I think they struggle too, because now they're in an environment where they don't get the green light for any of that. and they don't get to be monsters. So they were able to be monsters. And I felt a little bit of that. I felt a little bit of that.
I don't think I've ever thought of it as how you're articulating it. But bro, that's absolutely fucking true.
Yeah.
And not everybody, or I should say nobody is immune to that 100%. It's a perfect example of why veterans have so much road rage, because bro, if someone fucked with me in Iraq, I shot them.
Man, we got real examples of stuff we did.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like
that's how you practice with new guys how it's hitting.
That's what becomes our norm, where it's like, bro, if you get aggressive with me, I get to fucking kill you. And bro, that's not even like, I'm not even talking about like gnarly ambush scenarios, you know?
No, I know exactly.
In Iraq, like in all third world shitholes, everybody drives like idiots and they're bumping into your shit. And it's like, bro, you fuck with me, like we got to.
Yeah, you're walking home if you get us on a good day.
Yeah, and bro, that's like, you let a bunch of 24-year-olds just operate however the fuck they want, and then I have to come home and some cocksuckers flipping me off at a light saying "fuck you." Like,
next thing you know, you got your gun out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
My kids can tell stories all day long.
Well, bro, that fucking scenario literally happened to me with a kid flipped me off an intersection, and it ended with me smashing his head in his own car door. Yeah. And it's like, dude, that's not what we do here. You know what I mean? But it's hard to fucking turn that off. And the truth is, I would say almost probably since the pot, listeners are going to be sad because I feel like I'm calming down in real time. Even like as early as 1 or 2 years ago, I'm still parking my car and getting out, screaming at people like, what the fuck are you going to do about it? Yeah. And it's not until like this last year, I've already told the story on the podcast, where a dude flipped me off an intersection and I turned right to follow him. I'm like, okay, motherfucker. And then in like one fraction of a second, I was like, your kids are in the back.
I know.
What are you doing, dum-dum?
But see that...
And I turned around.
But you know what? That's mindfulness.
Yeah.
So you're a real monster. Like you're a scary dude, right? Like if you give yourself the green light, you could kill the whole police department if you want. I know that, you know that. They may not. But you're that guy, right? So for you to go around and not act on any of those things, that makes you such a strong person. And people confuse, and I want to make this point because this is a pet peeve of mine. People confuse a guy like you with a guy that's going to go into work and kill everybody, or a guy that's going to go into a high school and kill everybody. It's like, that's not who these guys are. Yeah, that's not who we are. That's a very different thing. There's different types of killer. If you want to compare me to a serial killer, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about. I would never hurt anyone, much less kill somebody randomly or like whatever. I get no satisfaction out of hunting or doing anything like that. It's like that. I love the idea of you coming and legally letting me chop off your neighbor's head if he's been messing around with little girls or boys.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
You don't even have to pay me. I'll pay. If you live in the Continental, I'll pay to come to you. If I can legally do that for you.
That's right.
And I'll do that every day the rest of my life, and I stand by that.
And sleep I don't like a fucking baby.
Right,
dude.
Because really... real malevolence, really bad people that don't have a conscience, they really don't care, and everybody's here just for them, those real narcissistic, pathologic people, we're better off without them.
Yeah, of course we are.
So if there needs to be some killing, let's kill the right folks.
And bro, and that's what we've done since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
You know,
it's just not popular right now or something.
I know.
Something's a little off. Something's out of whack. I'm not an expert.
It'll come back around.
Yeah.
Natural order will come back around. And that's part of natural order.
Yeah.
You know, these deviants and these people that shouldn't be here, like, we don't want them around our children. It's dangerous. It's self-preservation, you know? But it's interesting because I know, and I've kind of had a shift in perspective. Maybe it's because it's like, since I've become a stoner, I swear weed makes me ponder things like from a different angle, you know? But back in 2004, when I was on a rooftop looking for dudes to shoot, I did consider them like this real evil, right?
Absolutely. How else could you do?
Yeah.
How else could, of course.
And then as I get older, I'm like, well, if Ramadi was my hometown and there was foreigners on rooftops telling me what to do, there is a 1,000,000% chance I would have been firing RPGs at you guys.
100%. And it goes right back to, if all the politicians and the corporations that vote on going to war, if the war had to be fought with their family members, we would never go to war.
Never go to war, dude.
The bigger issue is we live in a false hypocritical state.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting when fake life and real life intersect, when they have the opportunity to cross paths, people like you and I look at it and go, yeah.
Yeah,
of course. I mean, what did you fucking expect, you morons? But it seems like for everybody else, when real life hits whatever, it's like this. Oh, what I can't believe. Okay, what do you mean?
Yeah,
you can only defy nature or flip your nose at tradition or whatever. You can only do those things so much, and then real life or real nature kicks back in and it reminds you. And just like the tragedy of the submarine thing. I don't watch the news anymore, but I just hear little things here and there. I mean, I'm so sorry to hear of such a tragedy like that. And it doesn't matter who you are going out on an adventure or whatever. I think that's awesome. That's what makes us such a special species and great people.
But at the same time, when you hear it implodes, duh.
Yeah. So, but if you look at it by, I'm going to read the tea leaves. You tell me you want to live a long, happy life, but you want to do this. I'm going to say, don't do that.
Yeah.
And you're going to increase your chances of living a longer and healthier. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Now, it may work. Just like most of the times we get in an airplane, it works. But guess what? Every time an airplane crashes,
it didn't work.
We're not meant to fly, y'all.
Yeah.
I don't care how you look at this world. We're not meant to fly.
Yeah.
We just figured out how to manipulate the environment. We're just smart enough. And I don't know if it's smart enough, but we're able to defy nature in a lot of different ways. But
that's
nature always wins.
Well,
nature always wins.
Like, I love when fucking episodes just go wherever, right? Because that's a truth.
It's me and you. It should go.
That's the truth. We have figured out how to defy nature.
Yes.
And that is why all of a sudden the fucking wheels are falling off, bro.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
There's consequences.
Like,
there's consequences from shutting the country down for there's consequences for this, that, and the other.
But you got fucking people all of a sudden that are saying they're in the wrong body. Like,
yeah, it's sad.
And now it's like mutilating themselves, all this weird shit. And it comes down to exactly what you said. We are figuring out a way to defy natural order.
Right.
And it's like, on one hand, a lot of goods come out of it. We get to fucking fly around wherever we want. But the pendulum can only swing so far. Yeah. And like I was actually thinking about it today where like, you know how there's all these like little ecological fucking rules for what you can do on a riverbed, what you can do close to a stream, what you can do here for the sediment that gets in the water, and it kills these salmon. Human beings are fucking notorious for like over exaggerating our importance or what we are capable of doing.
Right.
Bro, a fucking glacier will come through here one day the size of the entire state and smash every fucking thing here. Nature's the most destructive force.
Right. When one of these days it will.
Yeah, it will. Bro,
one of these days we'll be extinct.
A fucking meteor's going to hit.
One of these days we will be extinct, maybe for the first time, maybe for the fifth time.
Yeah.
But one of these days, at some point, it might be 1,000,000 years from now, but one of these days, one way or the other, we'll be extinct. It won't matter how many trophies I got for, being a multitasking, a basketball player or something, just, all this stuff, just,
Yeah, bro, exactly. Yeah. Which is a grain of sand that's going to catch on fire one day. That's it, dude. Yeah. Everything's fucking over, dude. I remember last night you said we got to talk about that trip to Fallujah.
Oh,
because that's a great story, the Cloverleaf.
So let me start at the beginning and set this for your listeners a little bit. So Fallujah at the time, in 2004, is considered the most dangerous city in the world. And it probably was, but the only thing I'm saying is Ramadi was just a smaller population, but it was the same people, same situation. So we had a meeting, we being Team Miami, with we had Keith Kidd. So Ambassador Stu Jones had been replaced by Keith Kidd, and that's who we were protecting, call sign the Godfather.
Who later became the ambassador.
No, I don't think Kidd ever did. Kidd, I know Stu did. Stu took over Iraq. He came back and took over Iraq.
All right, I'm going to have to Google this one.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I thought Keith did too for a period.
I think Keith is a little more on the secret side of things.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he wasn't. I'm not sure what his job really was when he was there with us.
Got it.
Is a little different, I think, maybe. But might have been a couple organizations involved in that. But both great guys. Give my life for either one of them. But at that time, Keith Kidd. Now he may have went on to become an ambassador somewhere. I'm not saying he didn't, but at that time it was just Keith as the Godfather, and he needed the governor of Ramadi, who is basically in charge of Al-Anbar's Providence. So it's a significant figure. If you look at the provincial council, the governor of Ramadi, and change in the area of Ramadi, the Sunni Triangle, those were your key people. The people that we saw all the time, that we dealt with. So Camp Fallujah, where General Mattis would go, which we got to talk about his guys too, would go for a meeting at Camp Fallujah. We were going to have a meeting there too. So our Godfather, the person we protected, was equal to, as a civilian, as what General Mattis was to that area, which he was in charge. So General Mattis was the military commander of that region, and the Godfather was the civilian version of that. Mm-hmm. So they would a lot of times go to this. We would a lot of times go to the same meeting. I'm saying they, like we, so the governor didn't want to. I'm dragging this out. Let me pick it up. So the governor didn't want to go with us. We had been attacked too many times. He knew everybody in the city was trying to kill us. He did not want us taking him anywhere. Yeah. So he said, we'll meet you at that little outpost outside of the city, outside of Camp Fallujah. Right. And so we drive to Camp Fallujah. Then me, you, Rancher, and I forget who the other person were, in 2 vehicles, drive to that little outpost to meet with the governor of Ramadi. We pick up the governor of Ramadi, and so now we're 3 or 4 miles away from Camp Fallujah. But we have to go back to the interstate, which is right in front of the city of Fallujah, do a U-turn, and go back to Camp Fallujah.
And the reason it's a U-turn is because it's those cloverleaf intersections.
And the military's got half of them blocked off.
Yeah, so you have to drive one way, circle around to actually drive back the other way.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
and you can go on fucking Google Earth and look at Fallujah and see the exact intersection.
The Cloverleaf, I know it's cool.
And see the Cloverleaf intersection.
Yeah, it's cool. So, if you just was northeast of the city or east of the city, that little Cloverleaf, you can see it, the interstate. Yeah. So I'm in the lead vehicle driving. Rancher's in the follow vehicle driving. You're my front right, and I forget who Rancher had with him. And we start. He's got Rancher's got the governor in his car, and we do that long upward on ramp, and it was just like brr, brr, something. I was like, "Did you hear it sound like Snake?
Yeah.
Did you hear that?" He's like, "Yeah." And all of a sudden, we top that hill to merge. And like you said, on your side, there was shit blowing up over here. And on my side, there was shit blowing up over here. Well, and we didn't figure all that out till we got back and talked about all of it.
That's where we learned that RPGs have a tracer burnout.
Right.
And they detonate.
They can airburst.
They airburst.
Yeah, they can airburst at a kilometer.
So we had RPGs bursting in the air. And I didn't really get what the fuck was happening.
Yeah, so what they did was the enemy had got 1 kilometer from the interstate.
Yeah.
And so they had IEDs, and then they had RPGs. And so I guess, I think it was IED, but there was a big explosion. So when we come up onto the ramp, onto the interstate, and go to merge, a small military combat, a military unit had just come under attack.
Yeah.
And that's what we were hearing and seeing. So, and we wound up right in the middle, and me and you, man, we were right behind that guy. And I'm going to tell you, that was about as scared as I ever was in war, because I just saw that kid down, like we were facing that way. So he was down like this, and I just thought he was going to turn his head, see us, and just go like this. Yeah. Because we were 20 meters behind a 50 cal machine gun.
You're fucked.
Yeah.
Your armor doesn't do a damn thing.
No, I just thought he was going to chew us up, and we couldn't have done anything about it, even, just chew us up. So just about the time I was really nervous with that scenario, the vehicle came to a stop. There was a big explosion to the left of the 7-ton, and it came to that stop, and we just pushed right and got around them. And we got about a half a mile away pretty quick. And I just asked Rancher on the radio, I go, Rancher, Sonny. He goes, go ahead, Sonny. I said, you still want a U-turn? He said, Roger that. I said, U-turn now. So for the listener, we just drove out of an ambush that we're fixing to drive right back through. Except now, instead of being caught up in the middle of the convoy, getting shot at by Fallujah, now we're going to be on the other side of the road getting shot at from Fallujah on the right and shot at from the military on the left. And that's when we U-turned, and me and you looked at each other, and we just went, holy fuck. It just slid down. I pushed my foot down. I can remember, because I'm short. I can remember I was on my tiptoe. Yeah. I was pulling that steering wheel. I can remember like it was yesterday. I was pulling that steering wheel towards me so I could push my foot on that gas pedal as hard as I could. And me and you had slid down. Me and you had slid down so far you couldn't see anybody in the car. Yeah, to drive under that 50 cal shooting. Yeah. And, but just when you go back and look at that, I remember when I used to teach protection, I would leave that example out because I'd be like,
well, why would we say that?
I don't want to teach people that once you get out of an ambush, oh yeah, just go ahead and drive back through it. That's the way we was going. But that's what I love about Rancher. It's like, no, that's what we're doing. And we'll figure it out. And it's like, I like that. So that's just what we did. So,
well, it goes back to fucking, we wanted to just push it as much as we could too. And bro, it's, we can sit here and laugh about it now because it worked out.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out for the guys that took filled our shoes. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, which is, just adds more to the fact that it could have been fucking us at any given day, dude.
Right.
Fuck, man. And like, not only was the combat wild, but we got to do whatever we wanted. Mm-hmm. Remember, we would fucking be like, hey, let's go drive to Amman, Jordan, Dead Sea Marriott and party for the weekend.
Right.
Let's go.
And we did.
And we did, bro.
And we had fun.
And we'd have to stop at local Iraqi gas stations. Remember? Because you can't drive all the way from Ramadi to Amman, Jordan without getting gas.
Take them over just like a bank robbery.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I can remember a couple different times, when we would roll up and from the outside looking in, it looked like we were robbing the place.
Yeah.
I mean, like seriously, like what was that movie where they oh man, it was the first movie where they actually got the tactics right. They were fighting in the street, bank robbery stuff, and it was like
it's right on the tip of my fucking tongue.
You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's got Robert De Niro in it.
Yep.
So anyways, whatever that movie is, that'd probably drive people crazy as much as it's driving me right now. But it was one of those guys like, holy cow, man, like these guys. And
but we paid them.
Well, so from the outside looking in, it looked like
it's really just a security takeover.
Yeah. So if you're on the inside, we're like cool as shit to people.
Yeah.
We're standing up there like, hey, what's up? Like as long as they didn't interfere, we were there to get gas and stay alive.
Yep.
If y'all didn't interfere with those two things, we were cool with everybody everywhere we went. And I think that's a principle of life across the board that has been lost somewhere. Is like, in this society now, it seems like the person that agitates or starts it isn't the person that gets in trouble. All that's justified. All that's okay. The person that's had enough and does something about it is the bad person.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Where did we get to that?
Like that Marine, Marine that choked that guy on the train a month ago. You see that story?
No.
Dude, a Marine This dude has been arrested, I think it's 44 times for fucking problems in the area.
I think they call that a pattern.
He's on the bus or on the train, and I don't know the details other than the guy was threatening and being very aggressive to passengers. And when he did it to the Marine just put him in a rear naked choke and set him down, right? But of course, the guy died.
Yeah.
Well, he died somehow.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you go around. See, that's the thing. So it goes
and now
back
this
to
dude's
no
in trouble.
accountability.
This dude's in trouble.
Right.
And it's like, hey, I think it was New York. I might be wrong on that, but I think it was somewhere back east. It's like, hey, New York, you had 44 opportunities to address this problem.
Yeah.
And he's on the bus saying he's going to kill people. Yeah. And now a Marine that fucking puts him away is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I call him a Marine. Why? Because that's an admirable position, but it doesn't matter if it's a fucking who it is. It's a fed up citizen. I don't care what their background is or what their profession is. If they're being threatened by some drug addict psychopath and they put him out of his fucking misery, that's a celebration, bro.
Well, I look at the death part as like the residual or the secondary. There's logical and natural consequences, in my opinion, to a lot of things that happen in life. And so, again, defying nature is to take that away.
Yeah.
Like if I'm bigger and stronger and I'm leaving you alone, but because we create an environment where you feel like you can come up, not mind your own business, interject into my life, say something, upset me, do whatever, and not have any consequences because for some reason in your head, you're doing the right thing or whatever else. It's like, so wherever we got that, it's like in nature, if something is stronger than you and you mess with it, you're going to learn real quick.
Yeah.
Don't mess with it. But for some reason, we think it's like, no.
Mess with it.
You can mess with the person that's being aggressive is always the wrong person. It's like, so what it is you just have the people that are making the decisions. They're morons.
Yeah.
They don't know what they don't know what they don't know.
The weak
they
are
don't know what
leading
they
the
don't
strong.
know. They don't know what they don't know. And so
and that's why it's out of alignment. The weak are leading the strong, and we've somehow let this happen. And that's why everything feels so out of alignment in the world.
And because it is. And so how do you get in a flow state when the universe seems to be out of line? How do you realign with that? And the things that we're doing and things you're talking about and guys like you, that's the process.
Yeah.
That's how you realign that chi, that environment, whatever. It's one person, one conversation, one podcast, one role, one yoga class, one, go help, your local animal shelter, whatever it is, it's having that positive energy. But then there's got to be some fight with your mindfulness. There has to be some fight. Like people shouldn't be expected to be crapped on and put up with it. And that gets into the government, local and federal, whatever, how they, for years, have been stepping over the boundaries of our basic liberties.
Yeah.
They don't exist anymore. And we think we're trying to fight to hold on to them. I feel like we've already lost them.
A lot of them are long gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you undo that? How do we hold somebody accountable? Well, we start holding people accountable, Snake. Then the government's going to have to be so if we create an environment where you don't do it, the only thing that helps is the government, the monster that's really calling the shots. Because now, if holding people accountable isn't a cool thing, the government never has to worry about changing or being challenged.
I know, man. And that's why revolutions are natural order, And it's not that I'm a fucking wacko or that I want to see fucking people die or that I want to fucking promote violence on the streets of America. I'm just talking about the reality of the earth going back to natural order. Men can only be pushed by other men so long. And dude, especially when these other men are weaklings and cowards and everybody knows it.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we've allowed these weaklings and these cowards to appeal to our strongest, like our fucking SWAT teams and our fucking special operations guys. It's like, you don't work for them. You're not on their team, but because they're signing their paycheck, there's this weird fucking, like this weird situation that gets developed where people feel loyal to this entity that has given up loyalty on the American people, which it was created to serve.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Now, you can say whatever the fuck you want. You can think I'm a conspiracy theorist. How much of our fucking money goes to this entity, and what do we see for it? They just give it away to special interest groups. They give it away to other countries so they can money launder it back to us. They give it to fucking big pharma. All of these fucking, that's our money, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't fucking get any say in any of this. Yeah. And if someone like me stands up and says, at what point do we deal with the people that are stealing from us? I'm the bad guy.
Absolutely.
Like what?
If you know,
I'm the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck, dude. That's reality.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is that's what made what you did a few years ago during COVID so special. It's because it's so rare to find somebody that'll go, hey, I'd rather lose my job or this, that, and the other than be on the wrong side of this. Like, I'm not going to live like a scared animal. So I can teach all day long about how not to live like a scared animal. But if every time I get put in a life's test, if my default is to live like a scared animal, then I'm a scared animal that's selling a bunch of bullshit to people.
Yeah, that's right.
So what makes you and your dojo and everything so different, what makes it so different is because you're that rare type of person. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You put your money where your mouth is. It's like you've been in that scenario, whether it's been in wartime, whether it's been in law enforcement during COVID or whatever, where you were willing, out of a few people that are willing to do that have a platform or create a platform to stand up, to do or speak or try to do what's right. And bro, we just need more of that because like Jordan Peterson's a great person on these topics with men and how, men have been reduced down to nothing. It's like, look, once all the heavy lifting's do and all this infrastructure set up, you can take a little sissy, nerdy, nobody that whatever and do whatever they want to. But when it comes time to start rebuilding these bridges and, doing all these other things that it really takes to build and keep this country going, you need strong men.
Yeah.
You need strong people. And there are differences between men and women. And you can see it every day long because, how many women have died building bridges compared to men? How many women have died building interstates compared to men? How many women have died fighting in combat compared to men? How many,
And good.
Yeah, and if women,
I don't want our women out building bridges and dying.
I don't either.
You know what I'm saying?
When I raised my daughter, I didn't raise her to be a man either. I think that there's just, so. Anyways, but I don't know what we're doing with all this, but there's consequences to messing with nature.
I wanted to get your opinion on because you said like certain men can stand from a place of speaking their truth and not being intimidated. And I think I've said this a lot on the show is I think war sets you free because when you're 25 years old or wherever the fuck we were over there and you come to the conclusion this decision to be part of what's going on right now is probably going to be my demise.
Right.
And for whatever reason, you come to peace with that.
Right.
And then you have no longer can anyone instill fear into your heart because the worst case scenario that could possibly transpire, I've already come to terms with that. I'm at peace with that. So the next term is fuck you.
Yeah. So what it allows you to do, we've been conditioned since childhood to be scared.
Yeah.
And what it does for the first time, it's a rare glimpse at what it feels like to not be scared.
Yeah.
To just live.
And that's what, dude, I tell people that when they want to talk about it is like, it wasn't even like courage. It was once you take the element of fear out of the equation of war, man, it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a good time.
Well, I think there is some courage in there. I mean, I don't want you to sell yourself short either. It's like,
maybe it just doesn't feel special. It just felt normal.
Yeah,
it was courage.
It is because it's relative because everybody in your group is like-minded, so it just seems normal.
But and that's when like people were talking about the video, like man, the amount of courage to stand up, and it's like,
well,
and that's the thing. To me, it didn't feel courageous. It's just, dude, I'm just telling the truth.
So here's the thing, Greg. I think most people, when you look at social media and how it's conditioning people, likes versus unlikes. And people are really scared. People get fired now over social media stuff, wherever. They have got people so scared of losing their job, of losing their friends. Where
going against the grain at all.
People would literally have just, and so from that standpoint, most people are not going to do what you did. They're just not.
It's so bad that not only are people afraid to not post or say their truth, but they'll put other things up just for social acceptance, like the black square.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I support Black Lives Matter. Yeah. Or that now this month everything's a rainbow. And it's like they're so conditioned to be afraid and not only speak their truth, they just eat up whatever narrative they're told to eat up, and then they go and they support that.
Yeah.
It's like that fucking nuts, dude.
It's like, that bipolar happiness or bipolar acceptance. It's like, these literal intermittent bursts of this bipolar response to feeling accepted or welcomed or happy by doing things that, they're not sincere about or whatever. It's just copycat or parroting or,
I mean, bro, we've touched on it a bunch about the being out of natural order, but the truth is the phones are probably the biggest tool that has exasperated the process of spiraling downhill, you know?
Yeah.
Because sure, lots of technology started to develop long before we were born. But if you look at where man was at in the last 100 years alone, it's fucking really nuts how far technology has taken us, considering how long we've been here.
Yeah, it's I forget what the math is, but it's a crazy comparison to how long supposedly we've been on this planet and how much it's changed just in the last
100 years,
or 30 years. So it's some astronomical, profound example.
And
but,
it's accelerating at a point that it must reach terminal velocity and I'll implode at some point. You know?
And it may be doing it right now, and we're just feeling some of that. I don't know. I try not to get too worked up about it. I went without my.
It's just.
I went without my phone for a couple of years. I tried to get off. I tried to do all those things, and just focus on yoga and being more mindful and at peace and finding more with little and having a minimalist lifestyle and all those different things. And I still subscribe to that.
You got rid of everything. And shit, huh?
So, but it doesn't benefit, when the corporations are benefiting off our phone more than we are, it doesn't benefit them for us to want to get rid of our phones, but it's not easy navigating. They've almost created a world where you can't not have a phone.
That's what you're saying.
And so
just
that's
accessing
scary.
your bank and
that's
shit.
Scary. That's scary. So there should always be some kind of ordinance in any city where there's always going to be appropriate sidewalks, bike lanes, all these basic things that we've gotten away from, not necessarily where you live, but in that parts of the country where I live. People should have the option to walk. I shouldn't have to have a vehicle if I don't want to. Why have we created a world where I can't just walk around my town? Think about it at the basic level. Think about if I don't want a car. I'm not Ted Kaczynski. I know he just recently passed away or whatever, but I'm not Ted, and I don't support him blowing people up.
Bro, but I was wondering if you were just going to throw out a rest in peace or something. Yeah, Ted Kaczynski, he just died. God rest his soul.
I didn't want to be I'm not a fan, but I didn't want to be disrespectful. But my point is everything he was saying was right. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible what's going on with technology and what it's doing, whatever. It's like people should be I think what triggered him, if I remember right, is you remember when the car alarms first came out. Every time you hit a car, it'd go, whoop, whoop, whoop. There was a period of time where having a car alarm, everybody had it, and you could get your own personalized and everything. It was during that time that he was listening to a bird and it was repeating a car alarm. The bird was, and that's when he realized the impact of of technology on nature, on us, and the consequences of that. And I think that even though it's horrible how he chose to
express
respond,
those,
respond to that, I think that he will go down, and however much longer we exist on this planet, I think he'll go down at some point in history as a true Robin Hood of sorts. You know, he was literally, he saw this, or maybe not Robin Hood, but just somebody that could really see into the future.
Yeah, once we have cybernetic organisms attacking us.
And warn us that, you know, yeah, this crazy guy told us that this was going to happen. But I'll tell you, if you tell me this thing right here is not good for society, but the government regulations say that it's healthy for consumer, and I can make $100 a book of it, then I don't care, right?
Yeah.
Like it's an opportunity to make a bunch of money. I'm not really going to see the consequences of my actions. So then it goes again to people being virtuous, you know, being, having morality, doing the right thing. And how do you get there when it's so much easier, to just play the game, make the money, get all your things, and then get to the end and go, I'm still not happy because I didn't do it right.
Yeah.
I didn't do it right. You know, but it's hard to tell somebody that. It's hard to tell somebody not to chase that money.
Because the whole fucking system is built around doing that.
Yeah.
And fucking like, I've talked about plenty. They've done studies that show if people just chase the traditional life and chase a retirement and then plan to live off a pension, like the math doesn't work out, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No.
Statistically, those people are fucked.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, well, fuck, man. 2 hours, 15 minutes. Piss break time.
Piss break.
Well, that's the beauty of a piss break. Is I forgot what we were talking about, and we're just basically starting a new episode.
We're going to start episode 2, just in case the first one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just in case we
and
need
it has
trash
nothing to do with the edibles that we ate earlier.
Yeah, no, I don't even know. How do you spell that?
But yeah, man. One thing that I did want to talk about that you mentioned at breakfast is that you recently, maybe not recently, but you read the book, The Real Anthony Fauci.
Yeah, recently. So within a lot, because it's been out, a couple years. Yeah.
And you said it was literally the most eye-opening piece of fucking literature you've ever read in your entire fucking life.
And look, if you read that with an open mind and look at it critically,
mm-hmm.
it's going to support all the things that guys like you and I already know, that we can't convince other people that the government is inherently corrupt, malevolent, and the proof is in the pudding. And here's my proof. Here, how can I prove that? Where's my evidence? How do we treat our veterans? Right?
Yeah.
How do we treat our veterans? Versus how do we treat some foreigners that don't even live in this country or not even from this country? Look at that simple comparison, and it'll tell you where people spend their time and money is where their interest and where their care is. If the government spent its time and money with veterans, we'd know it.
Yeah.
And I can give you a lot of examples to prove that we don't. So,
well, and dude, that's a fun rabbit hole to jump into, because I've recently upgraded my rating over the last year or something. And just like we were talking about in the car, there was a part of me that used to feel bad about that, because I was I didn't go to the VA out of seeking fucking monetary compensation.
Sure.
There was a time when I was like, I need some fucking counseling, dude.
Sure.
And that was because I was screened for, I don't know if you know the story about my retina hurt my eye in flight school.
I heard about that. Yeah.
So then,
I don't know the whole story.
So then I got out, and then they fucking had to do like this medical assessment through the VA since I got out injured. People were like, go get whatever documented and start your file with the VA. And I did that, and based on my screening for TBI and like whatever question, how many times have you been blown up? Fuck, I have no idea.
No,
that kind of stuff, right? And so then they said, okay, based on what you've answered, you have to now like see a therapist too. And that was like part of the VA process. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was fucking silly, right? Mm-hmm. And then I ended up developing a relationship with this lady, like realizing, oh, she's a good human being that has my best interest in mind and actually does help me think about things. So I would just go to the VA now, for the first couple of years to like, I kind of feel like I need to talk to her. Sure. So I'd go talk to her. Yeah. And in that period of time in my life, I thought counseling was a very powerful tool. I think it is for some people. I think at that period of time in my life it was. I don't foresee myself ever going back to that kind of stuff.
Right.
I just don't think it's necessary.
You don't look like you need it, Greg.
I don't think I need that shit anymore. No, you don't look like
you need it.
Yeah. And so, but through that process, I started to learn about what being part of the VA program really is, and that, you submit a list of ailments and they give you monetary compensation. And out of the gates for a long time, I was like, man, that's just dudes trying to milk the system. And then fast forward 20 years, I realized the whole system is here to milk us.
That's right.
That's the truth.
That's right.
Every fucking thing you do is milking you.
That's right.
So if I can fucking say, you know what? Give me some of my shit back. It no longer, I know, like I told you.
The example you gave me. The example you gave me, you gave me at breakfast, if you give that example, that's the best example anyone's ever, heard.
Are you talking
about that? Okay, because what you're saying to me is you're a throwback from the World War II generation.
Oh yeah,
you're above that. Like I'm not going to milk the system. If I'm hurt, but I'm not really hurt. I can still work. I'm going to work. You still have that beautiful thing that used to be normal.
Oh yeah,
that's right. About how we did things, and
I can still stand on my own 2 feet.
Like I'm not taking a handout. That's what weak people do, and there's a beauty to that. There's a respect to that. I'm little chill bumps thinking about the generations of men who taught me to be like that, and I was proud to be like that. But the example that you gave as you get older and through experiences, this counselor, this person, I think it was the counselor you were telling me, that told you that, okay, if you don't think the government, at this point, do you think the government spends its money wisely? And you're like, no. So you want me to finish?
Yeah, no. And she goes, yeah. So she goes, so then regardless of this, if this money is something that'll benefit you personally or not, do you think you could spend $3,000 a month wiser than the U.S. government finding a good charity, cancer research, like redirect the money to something that's meaningful to you or your family? She goes, because if you have a moral dilemma with accepting that money, then just accept it and do better with it. And I was like, oh
yeah,
because they're not going to ever do better with our money. They're going to fucking send it to Ukraine and launder it back to themselves.
Well, look what they've been doing.
I know.
No, there's no question that things aren't being done in the best interest of the law-abiding Americans.
Yeah,
like it doesn't mean anything to have been born, raised here, to believe in America, to serve. Even in wartime, to serve and whatever. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. Thank you for your service, whoever come up with that slogan. It's like, what does that mean? You want to thank me for my service? Make homelessness with veterans 0.
Yeah.
We can do that. If we can give Pakistan or all these other places that nobody's ever been, heard of, or should care about
billions,
we shouldn't have a veterans problem. If we can go and do that, and that's just the stuff we know.
Bro,
about.
We have the money. We have the money to fix all of this stuff.
That's right. That's just the stuff we know about.
And it's like all the homeless epidemic, where all of our fucking nice, beautiful cities like Seattle and Portland.
Portland's terrible right now. My son just left there. It's terrible.
Rotten.
Yeah,
they're rotten.
It's a failed policy.
And it's failed policy. And it's like, we know how to deal with those people. All right, those people have to be. We can't violate their constitutional rights. Well, they can't be there.
Yeah.
So they need to go into fucking treatment.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do. Like, you're telling me you can't create giant fucking treatment centers with the amount of money that we generate through taxes?
If we stop, I'm pretty sure, Greg, I'm not an accountant or anything like that. I don't have any special skills in any of that. But I'm pretty sure, using that common sense thing, that if we stop sending all this money overseas to control other business and agendas overseas to make more money for the people that run things that have all the money, if we stop doing that, we can actually really take care of all the people. But the game stops. If you change the rule that profoundly, the game stops.
Yeah.
And then the house of cards falls, and it's like we realize we don't have money. Like money. It's like they're wanting to go to moneyless system. It's like, don't do that, guys.
Yeah.
That's our last,
That's even worse.
Oh, it's more convenient. It's more convenient till they decide nobody has any money anymore. And if you think, oh, they would never do that, just look at history, what's been done. I mean,
well, and
what
bro,
happens
even now, it's not too far from that. Like all of most of our money is in a bank. What does that really mean?
So
that this entity says I have that much money?
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be the first time in history for people to want to go withdraw their money. And what does the bank say? We can't.
My son went and withdrew $25,000 from his bank account to transfer into a business account, starting up his new business, Yoast Tree Work. And I happened to be with him when he was doing it. The first thing they asked him was, "What are you doing?
What are you doing with this money?"
That's exactly what they said.
I know, bro.
And you know what made me so proud?
I'm gonna wipe my fucking ass with it.
No, you want to know what makes me so proud?
That he said whatever I want.
He said, that's none of y'all's business.
Good, dude.
He didn't go into whatever. He said, that's none of y'all's business. And they changed. But you know what? They would have kept that dialogue going if he would have participated.
No, dude, they're super nosy when you pull out. I've noticed that when you pull out, because, dude, building the gym, we looked into different loans, but we ended up making a decent enough wage last year that we could fund most of it out of pocket with what the gym is generating.
Yeah.
But that means the gravel was 30 grand worth of gravel that had to be brought in here. Or no, it's 18 grand and then the work on top of it.
Oh, it's a total.
To have the pad constructed with material, $30,000. And that just seems fucking astronomical.
Right.
But a lot of these contractors, they want fucking $100 bills. You know what I mean?
Right.
And why not? They can run their business however the fuck they want. And so you go draw out these massive sums of money and they're looking at you sideways. And it's like, bitch, why do you care? I know. And maybe I'm going to go out to my property and use it to stay warm on a fire. That's my problem.
Yeah. So what happens when there comes a time when the only money you have is in that computer you hold in your hand?
Yeah.
That all the time isn't working right. If you have ever dealt with the government and realized how removed they are from society and from your reach. So, the philosophy, not literally, but figuratively, is you should be able to get your hands around an individual's neck, like from an accountability standpoint.
Yeah.
So if I owe the government $10,000, they got every means in the world to treat me like a terrorist to get it back.
Yeah. They got
even though I'm not.
They got plenty of hands to put around your neck.
There's so many different ways they can ruin my life. But if they owe me $10,000,
no one gives a fuck.
You got to fill in this, then you got to jump through this hoop, then you got to do whatever. Well, I don't want to do that. I just want my money. Well, that's not an option.
Yeah.
You can do this or you just don't get your money back. Well, you know what? That's as gangster as it gets. That is as gangster.
Bro, I never thought about
as gangster as it gets.
That's exactly what it is.
As gangster as it gets.
Because you can't do anything
We're paying the toll just like you had to, all these third world countries and all, because that's where I did a lot of my work after Ramadi, after Iraq and Afghanistan, was in other third world countries doing some stuff up until 2019. And
damn, you fucking wrote it out, bro.
Yeah, you get to see who the real gangsters are, and the real gangsters are the really rich families and corporations behind the politics at any given city or state. Those are the real gangsters. They're the real bullies, and they're the real problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just more profound.
Yeah, your neighbor's not your problem, man.
Yeah.
Look, I live in Tennessee. People say whatever they want to, and they stir. It's like, there ain't no racism. There ain't no body. Nobody's burning nothing down or protesting. Like, people get along just fine.
Bro, that's our president.
There's a human problem. You're going to have problems no matter what race you are with each other. But, in general, it's like, life's fine in Tullahoma, Tennessee.
And our fucking president said white supremacy is the most dangerous terrorist concern inside of the United States.
50% of the country is going to believe that just because we're divided 50-50.
Yeah.
It seems like we're just automatically going to believe that.
I say it all the time, bro. It's like I've lived all over the place. I've worked a lot of different fucking jobs, and I don't know anyone. I don't think I knew anyone that's just racist. Oh, he's a black guy. I don't want him on my team. Like,
dude, I haven't.
Like everybody's fucking, from almost all of my professional experience, my jiu-jitsu experience, like, dude, you're fucking judged on your merit and your character.
Yeah, and the guys that I worked with in special operations were some of the coolest. Those black guys were some of the coolest guys. Like they were loved. It was like there was no racism.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, dude.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if they want to paint that picture to make the poor performers in any given race like feel like they're victims, you know? But like every race has their element of shitty people and their element of good people. And like, we can talk about ours being fucking white trash meth addicts.
Yeah, well,
that's typically when you see the white people have decided to live a life of fucking crime and debauchery, that's where they end up, right? And then we got the hoods and all this shit. Like, okay, there's elements of all races that are shitty, and there's elements natural and logical. Good, that's right. Dude.
There's natural and logical consequences.
And you know what people are drawn to is good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you can see it in people's faces. You can feel it in their energy. And bro, like I think I talked about it on last week's podcast, but I met a lady in a parking lot last week who is this fucking black lady that pulls up next to me and just starts fucking like, hey, what year's your 4Runner?
She liked it?
Yeah. And she goes, because I just bought this piece of shit and it's one of the new Broncos. And she goes, I feel gay in this thing. And I was like, the way that she was like just randomly venting to me was funny. Yeah. I talked for like 20 minutes. I said, you need to do my podcast.
Dude, black girls are so cool.
She's hilarious, bro.
Dude, if you're cool, let me tell you, if you're cool with black women, dude, you ain't got to worry about it. Dude, they'll go to they'll fight for you. Like if you will show black women some respect, dude, you ain't
wrap, huh?
You can't be around a better group of people like they. And I've always just gotten along really well with black women.
Yeah,
and they will, man.
Here's the other thing, though, as we're talking about right now. Oh, that's a stereotype, right? Like all of a sudden we have to pretend that we're all the same, and it's like, dude, we're not all the same. We have different cultures. Certain cultures behave differently, and we have different ways that like is accepted within our culture that might be very different. And it's just like you just said, you feel a different energy from women from a black culture.
Oh, definitely.
Why can't that be something that's normalized or celebrated?
It is. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, but
that's what I'm doing, because somebody makes the rule that it's a bad thing.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah,
and I think it's because they don't want identity. They don't want people to feel different and have like, it's just like everybody is just this fucking thing.
If you're not really happy on the inside, you want to change other people. You don't want to. It takes a lot of courage.
That's some wisdom
if you want to get into some, So
if when you're ready, man,
it's a scary place to look in the mirror and go, "That's the problem." So these people that, especially the really loud ones or whatever, they're the ones that are their internal volume. Their confusion inside, the chaos within inside of them is just worse than it is with the average person. They're closer to one, being more than, 2 standard deviations from the norm, if you will, for what your internal volume or chaos or calmness should be, heaven and hell within inside of you. And so I think the easier thing is, and that's what I've seen with a lot of weak people, weak narcissistic people, whether they're men or women, that's what I've seen as a big time is they aren't accountable for anything. They haven't done anything wrong. And it doesn't matter what age they are, what stage they're in, they know who the problem is and what the solution is. And of course it has nothing to do with them.
I don't understand how certain people will, it's like they believe it too.
Oh, they don't.
It's like someone could be caught red-handed and be like, what the fuck? Why are you doing this?
Pathological.
I didn't do that.
Oh, that's the pathological. So that pathological, whatever that is, and somebody like Jordan Peterson or something probably knows exactly what this is and could explain it, and I can't. So I'm not trying to act like I can, but how.
I don't know, man. For people to fucking be able to behave one way and then just blatantly pretend like that's not what happened.
Maybe it's the control. Maybe it's the control thing. So it's like I'm so out of control on the inside. I need to control. You know, it's almost like a trauma response. You know, that they're doing or something like that. But either way, what you know, I'm getting my own self confused. Either way, you know, I think the healthier a person is, the more centered they are, the more honest they are with self. You're gonna have a better experience having any kind of conversation with them. So if I really want to critically think, and if I really want the truth to be the end state of what I'm seeking, then I'm not going to interfere with that with all these biases and lies that I've told myself and all this conditioning. And I only listen to one side of the story all the time that supports my narrative, all these different types of bias and everything. So, you know, and it's just, so I think it's just rare. I think what happens is we're listening to people and we're being controlled right now by people who, you know, I mean, it's moronic.
Yeah.
It's just moronic.
I honestly think that's why RFK is getting.
I like that book, man.
I think
know
that's
we got
why,
away from that book, but
no, but I'm saying, like, if you watch his movement online, right, you can see a lot of people are interested because he doesn't seem to be playing that game that you were just speaking of, you know?
Well, that's probably why his dad and his brother or his uncle got killed. You know, I think really standing up against the true malevolence of this country is standing up to a global force. I mean,
but bro, like, we're so quick to, and it happens on the right just as much. We're so quick to eat our own because, like,
absolutely.
I make a post about him, and bro, I literally said, like, listening to him on Rogan was fascinating. Everybody should take a listen. And then some of the comments like, fuck that guy. He's not a 2A guy. And it's like, sitting here today, I don't know what his stance is on weapons because I haven't heard his policy on weapons, right? Like, that's not what I said. My post had nothing to do with his stance on weapons. He didn't bring it up on the podcast.
Right.
People can, like, you can share ideas and good ideas on one hand, and then have disagreements on the other hand.
Oh, absolutely.
But what it's become is two different opposing teams, and you have to agree with everything this team says, and then you have to hate everything that team says. Right. And there's nowhere in the middle, dude.
That's right.
You know? And you don't think that's fucking by design?
Oh yeah, it's
it's
what they call it. There's that one guy that preaches that. Dualism. Is it dualism? Is I think what they call it. I don't know. There's the people that are right and the people that are wrong, and I'm always in the group that's right.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
bro, do you ever do that? I'll look in the mirror and just be like, are you on the right side? Are you sure you're on the right side? Because, bro, there's people that hate me.
Yeah.
There's people that hate you.
Yeah.
And think, like, wanting good conservative values and strong physical human beings and less government and more independence. You say something like that and, bro, they hate us.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where they would call us white supremacists and racists and shit. And it's like, how do I arrive at this place where people are saying that about me? When I'm looking at myself in the mirror, being emotionally detached and saying, no, man, you're 100% on the right team.
No, I think so too. And
you know what I mean?
I do a daily look. That's part of my therapy is I do a daily look in the mirror and make sure that I'm on the path. And then I just try to make sure I stay on it. But yeah, no, you're,
because all of these people that we oppose their behaviors, they think we're the devil.
Yeah.
And I wonder, do they look at themselves in the mirror and assess, like, are my thoughts rooted in reality? Like, I want to sit here and believe no. But then I start to wonder, like, are the two sides, maybe there's not a right and a wrong. It's just two opposing forces that can't live congruently because it's just the energy's off or something.
Could be by nature, because everything in nature has an opposing.
Yeah.
For it could be. It also could be.
Oh, you know what, dude? This is a total stoner thought, right? Because one thing that will kill societies, watch the Mouse Utopia study. If people start to congregate in cities and live on top of each other, mass population disrupts hormones and ultimately leads to extinction. That's what the mouse fucking study shown.
And we're seeing that.
And we're seeing that in real time.
Yeah.
So what if we have some type of internal mechanisms in our brain that when we start to be around people that we are not congruent with, or we start to be too confined amongst each other, we feel an opposing force to get away from each other.
Yeah.
Right? And you guys go over here and we go over there. And now the life cycle gets to continue in a healthy manner. But because of these fucking phones, the two sides that are opposing, they can't get away from each other.
Right.
Because typically throughout fucking history, if two sides are opposing, they either get away from each other or they fight each other.
There's a buffer, right?
Or they fight each other.
Yeah, it gets sorted out. And
then natural order fucking takes place again.
And that is the natural order.
Have you watched Chimp Empire?
Yeah.
Bro, the natural order. Yeah. When the tribes are trying to expand their land or they're moving or they're out on patrol, they break it down to like, dude, certain tribes have better fruit trees and the other tribes, they want to push it because they want to gain access to that fruit tree.
The fruit can be interchanged with oil fields.
That's what I'm saying,
I know.
And so we're we're also chimps with these imaginary lines drawn on the ground, and you push, and they either concede victory or they push back. And dude, that's how human beings are wired to live, dude.
Yeah.
But we don't do that anymore. Like the tribe that you existed within was like a Team Miami scenario where like everybody to your left and your right was on your team and the people that weren't on your team were out there, and that's normal and that should feel comfortable. And now it's like we're literally intertwined with a rival tribe that is wired differently than us. And it causes
being told that there's something wrong with you if you don't like it.
Yeah, that's exactly right, dude. Yeah. And
you're being lied to on multiple levels.
And it just causes frustration and anxiety. And it like, of course you want to you see these fucking pride parades, and the barbarian inside of me wants to go out there with a hammer and just start fucking smashing dudes' faces in.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's not my tribe. I don't want to be around it. Yeah. It's no different than the fucking chimpanzee. When they see, remember from Chimp Empire, when they see a rival chimp, they have to fight each other.
Yeah.
That's the rule of the forest.
Yeah.
And it's fucking how it goes.
Yeah.
Combat is imminent if I fucking see you.
And that's the way war with humans used to be. And now it's gotten to where
now war is all political. It's just a business.
But it did start out as a natural part of the battle. We look at what the
expanding empires is really where the foundation of war.
What the U.S. government did to the Native Americans is horrible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the way we did everything else. And that's the same government that's telling us all the stuff now that everybody thinks is so brilliant. Like they've never shown any brilliance or any real humanity. Not the government.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to see how different two different humans can see the same scenario we're in right now and be so opposed. But I think part of it too, I think you bring up a good point, but when we talk about this and I think about it, I also think about when reality and the fake world intersect, have an opportunity to meet. That's when you're talking about this person that hates you, and I know there's the stereotypical person that hates you and me, and it's a certain type of person. Yeah. I know who it is. Okay. They hate us until we're saving their ass.
Yeah, of course.
Because let me tell you something. The only person that is, because I know the things like nobody's coming to save you, but that's not true. There's a handful of people like us
yeah,
that if they're around that are.
Yeah.
And they're not going to think twice about it,
bro.
When you can reach down into that well or pull them out of that structure or whatever their scenario is to save them, or maybe the water level's rising and they sat there too long waiting for somebody to help them and now they're going to drown. Whatever it is, when you come to help them, all of a sudden being a guy that totes a gun and being tough and being whatever, it's like that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
How many war correspondents that were anti-war went and got embedded with a unit and came back a different person?
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of people that talk real strong about shit that they don't know. That's exactly what it is. They're talking about stuff they don't know nothing about, but they're articulate. It's like I think Nietzsche called a bloodless scholar. So if I can sit here and say this is the Bible or this is a book on medicine or whatever, and there's nobody that can outspeak me about this book. But if I sit here and tell you this book is on water and how important water is and how to get it in different scenarios and how important it is to drink it and whatever, but if I leave this room and I never drink water, doesn't make any sense, does it? Why would somebody that's an expert on water and how important it is to drink it, why would I not apply it to my life? And so, you know, I think a lot of people out there that are in the role you're talking about are real educated people. And they use that as their battle. That's what they fight with. That's their tools, is that knowledge. But it's like, if you don't use that knowledge, if you only use it for a weapon, but you don't even apply it to your own life, you're just a hypocrite. You know, you're just, you know, so.
Dude, it's funny because I was talking to Jenny about the same thing last night, because I was like, I wonder, dude, we'll watch TV sometimes and like the commercials are so fucking retarded that it makes me realize, I'm like, dude, I feel kind of stupid. The fact that I'm watching whatever program I'm watching, the powers to be think this is how you interact with people on our level. Like we're fucking retarded, dude. The way the commercials are fucking trying to captivate your attention is like straight up idiocracy. Yeah. And then I was thinking, I was like, I wonder where I fall in on like the average intelligence species wide, humanity. Am I at the 70th percentile? Like, I don't fucking know. And then this is what she said. She goes, listen, if you're thinking of measuring your intelligence based on your ASVAB score and your GT score, there's plenty of people that'll fucking smoke you, you know? But intelligence isn't fucking book smart. That's a piece of the puzzle. Then you have to be able to incorporate awareness and your ability to defend yourself, your ability to communicate thought to other people and be a good communicator. Right. And there's all of these different levels that have to come together to make people what we should look at as like wise people. The people that are in charge don't hold any wisdom. Just because they're a fucking Yale lawyer or something, you don't hold any wisdom because you got to have all those other pieces of the puzzle. You know, I talked about it with the guys in the parking lot, and I don't know if I've talked about it on the show or not yet, but I honestly think like for a man to be respected, he has to be physical enough to be able to be in the mix with the really, really elite guys, but you don't have to be one of the really, really elite guys. You just have to be in the mix.
Oh,
And once you're in the mix, now you can hold their respect, right? Whereas if you're just physically weak, you can't hold the respect. Yeah. Because that's the first assessment as a man. And so it's the same thing on the intelligence side. Like you don't have to be at the absolute pinnacle, but you do have to have...
Can't be a moron.
You have to have some decent wit and some decision-making abilities and shit. And I think it's a very rare package for people to have a combination of both grit and wit. And I think those are the guys that are drawn to special operations, dude.
I do too. And I think that's that small percentage across the globe of a type of a warrior class of person.
Yeah.
You know, if we lived in a warrior class society right now, the way we think would be the norm.
Yeah, dude.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? If we lived in a warrior class.
So why does it never, ever, ever work? Because the guys at the top get greedy. That's it, like every time.
Oh, I'll tell you what happens is, so to establish something beautiful, it requires a warrior class of people to get it and hold it.
Yeah.
Once you get it and hold it and a couple generations enjoy it and get spoilt, they just think it's always been here and nobody had to do anything to get it. So they don't appreciate it. So I mean, I think there's a lot.
Unless you earn it, you're not going to appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, on average, I think the average person right now believes what the news is telling them, and that's scary. That's scary to think. I mean, my kids were talking like I just told my son the other day, like I broke my leg a couple weeks ago, and I don't think anybody can see it, but I've got a broken leg right now. And when it broke, and I got to the hospital and they asked me if I wanted pain medicine. I said, no, fine. And my son, he's 27. He was in Ranger Battalion. Now he's an arborist. And, he's a pretty tough kid. And he looks at me and he goes, Dad, take some pain. So I said, Josh, I said, it's not hurting that bad right now. And I said, let me tell you something. I said, if you want to be, if the advice that I can give you now that you're a man, because I thought I was going to die while he was a kid in Iraq. Yeah. So I was hard on him. I wanted him to be able to handle life without me is what I was preparing him for. And I thought that was the right thing to do. And I don't regret it. So I told him, and this was just a couple of weeks ago. I told him, I said, Josh, there's men and then there's a man's man. And I said, a man's man is just somebody that other men wish they were, the average man. Not that everybody, So I said, if you really want to be a man, I said, it's easy to do that when everything's going good. I said, when things aren't going good, that's when you need to show other men how to act. And just because I broke my leg doesn't need to be a big deal. I'm not in a lot of pain right now, and I'm not going to act like it. I'm going to handle this like a man. And so, there's a certain amount of conditioning and mental toughness that's, I think, required to handle life and its stressors and whatever, and not preparing your kids to handle and cope with those things, to me, is as child abuse as anything.
Yeah.
Why would you want to protect your kids from everything? And that's that, just keep our kids at home the whole time and I love you. And it's like, what a selfish parent.
Well, bro,
what a selfish parent.
It comes back to what you just said about a warrior class of people. After a generation of two, then they just perpetually start to get weaker. That's right, and babying your children is part of that process, and bro, I'm even guilty of it to where it's like my 7-year-old's like, Dad, I want to go to the park on my bike. Can I go? And there's a part of me that's like, oh, fuck no. You know what I mean? But then it's like, I was on my bike my whole life as a kid.
I know.
So I say, all right, go have fun. If anything weird happens, you scream as loud as you can. You tell him, fuck you. My dad's going to smash your face in with a hammer.
Yeah.
That's the go-to phrase of someone trying to abduct someone.
Right. Yeah. That's
fuck
beautiful. You got a plan.
You got
a plan, but you're letting her live.
You get to tell an adult, fuck you. That's pretty exciting. And then you get to say, my dad's going to smash your fucking face with a hammer.
Yeah.
Because that's what's coming.
I think that's great, Snake. And where I grew up was a great place to grow up. It really was. Mm-hmm. And but you just don't see kids out and about. You'll see the really lower social economic kids, the black, white, Mexican. You'll see the really poor kids out walking. There's no sidewalks, nothing. Whatever. It seems like it's abuse to not have your kid outside on a nice day. It seems like
weird times.
And I'm
and again, we're finding when we realized that cigarettes were bad, remember the campaign against cigarettes?
Oh yeah.
Well, do you know what they're finding is the next bad thing? It's sitting. It's not being grounded to the earth.
Which is what the government told you to do during COVID, which increased the deaths.
It's not enough sun on your skin.
Yeah.
And that's all the stuff that's gonna we're gonna continue to deteriorate until people just force themselves to get back to that way of living. And it's not just mental development. You should be outside on your bike instead of sitting on your bed with an iPad.
It goes on and on. You're right. The benefits goes on and on. Getting up and getting outside and getting sunlight and doing it, it does so many things neurologically.
Yeah, we said yesterday, we're like, bro, if we talked to ourselves from 20 years ago, we'd feel like hippie tree huggers.
Yeah. You know? Well, that's what's cool is I've kind of got this libertarian, little conservative hippie approach towards life now.
And I think a lot of people have that, dude.
Yeah.
I think a lot more people have that than we're led to believe.
And I don't think we hit on it, but when I went overseas to kill folks for my country, I thought I was doing God's work.
Oh, I know.
I thought, look, when I was growing up, you had professional athletes that were the superstars, heroes of the world, but then they stepped aside for the war heroes. There was not a higher place in my mind, in my heart, in my soul than being a war hero.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can be Michael Jordan,
bro,
but
even
then,
to the point where like there was a point in time when I was like, dude, the guys that are getting like a limb blown off, that's so badass.
No, it is. It's the ultimate. It's the ultimate.
Like they're like
it's the ultimate badge of
just
badass,
warrior.
It's
you know, and it's bizarre.
The guy that's lost
like,
his eye in combat. It's like that's
yeah,
that's the remains of a real warrior.
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
that's a real warrior walking right there. You know,
and there was a part of me coming home unscathed that I was like almost disappointment.
Yeah.
And think how stupid that is.
Well, you got different injuries. They can't spot. Now somebody else can spot them in your eyes. Like another, you know, the old saying, you know, a fisherman can see another fisherman from a mile away. Like, well, a killer can pick up on another killer pretty quick in their eyes. Talking, you know, there's some kind of connection or some kind of look that it's just real.
Yeah.
And nothing verbal has to take place.
And bro, sometimes I want to kill that other person.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not just like an understanding.
Yeah.
Dude, and who knows what that is. But there's been times, and it's very rare, where it's just like at the grocery store or something, and you like lock eyes with someone, and it's like something inside of me wants to put a bullet in.
Yeah, something inside you goes, are you fucking kidding me right now,
like,
dude? Yeah, are you serious? Yeah.
He should be dead.
Yeah.
And I can't articulate anything other than an energy. And it's like, it's fucking nuts that's also inside of us.
Well, it's that. See, my son's dealing with a lot of that. I guess I did too, and I'm getting away from it. But it's like, so if two, you talked about this earlier, if two people from two different groups, even if you're both from a warrior class, you're from two different groups.
Yeah.
And you bump into each other, you're not going to be at ease. And it's like, so you know as well as I do, when two badasses get in the same room, most of the time they're going to both soften. You know, they're going to soften. It's like, dude, I'm a badass. You know it. You're a badass. I know it. Let's just be cool, man.
Yeah.
There's not, like, I'm not in a bad mood. I don't have problem, whatever. But if I come into this space and you're posturing,
it's our.
The next thing I know, I'm in a different part of my brain.
100%.
My autonomic nerve, right? I'm not in a human part of my brain. I mean, it's scientific. So I'm not in a human part of my brain anymore. I'm in an animalistic part of my brain. And so I'm going to respond by killing, fighting, running, hiding, freezing, or fawning.
Yeah.
That's my response. And we are going to respond by fighting or killing.
Yeah.
We're not runners. We're not fawners, you know? And so, I know exactly what you're talking. I felt exactly what you're talking about. And what it is you see, okay, you're a killer. I can see it. But you ain't a killer like me, motherfucker. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you want to show them. It's like there's different levels of killers too. It's like, but you don't know, you know. So I think that's part of it too. It's hard to walk around, Snake. I mean, you think about how many people you've killed and the things you've been involved with just in the time we spent together. And you're talking about driving and how you can respond to that. And the next thing you know, you're back in a world where you're not allowed to do those anymore. You saw in this same planet that there is an advantage to there being a strength from handling your position from a position of strength. There's an advantage to that. There's no advantage from handling your shit from a position of weakness.
Third world chaos, the only position respected is strength. Period.
Right. And so,
and that's like, dude, and we didn't only just see like how we had to modify our own behavior for that to work, but also like what did the local populace do? They literally just did whatever the stronger entity told them to do. And it would bounce back and forth between the US military and Al-Qaeda in Iraq. And that's why, because they didn't have the strength,
weakness
to have the freedom to stand on their own 2 feet. So they just have to go with the flow. Yep. And whoever's the current warlord, because that's all that was really happening.
Right, it's just survival.
It was just a different warlord. For a while, it was the U.S. Army, and then for a while, it was Al-Qaeda Iraq, and then for a while, it was ISIS. And the majority of people are just going to take a knee to whatever the power to be is. But when you see that firsthand, it makes you realize, dude, you know how fucking important it is to be one of the strong ones?
Right.
Because otherwise, you don't get to have a say, you know? And fucking A, bro, most our society is content being the weak ones to just do what they're told.
I know.
They're content with it. It makes them happy. Like you got motherfuckers, like what are we at now? 70% obesity?
Oh,
you're carrying around.
We have new diseases in our lifetime. Yeah. In my lifetime, there are new diseases to my species
because of how gluttonous you motherfuckers
because of
are.
The government approved diet.
Yeah, dude.
And the foods that are being sold to feed us. Yeah,
but people are like. Here's the thing: the government didn't help the situation with cutting out fat from everything, or like replacing everything with high fructose corn syrup and all the bullshit that they did.
Replacing
right?
butter with margarine.
Yeah,
margarine is not even real.
But now, I don't care who you are, you should know what's going on. Like, it's not hard to find out what the real fucking answer is to become a strong, resilient human. But a lot of motherfuckers still have no idea, dude.
It goes right back to what I'm saying. Most people don't want to look in the mirror. Yeah. Most people don't want to go push the button for the truth. Look, when I decided that I was going to, part of my therapy was going to be to have a clear conscience, to go to bed every night and wake up without my heart racing. And the quickest way I found to do that was have a clear conscience. Well, how do you have a clear conscience? Well, you can't be two people. So how do you not be two people? You got to stop lying to everything, to all those voices, to you, to them. And how do you get there? That's not easy. Well, here's the problem I'm finding with that is, so I meet you, and let's just change the scenario. You're an attractive female, and if I'm attracted to you, you're probably shithouse crazy. So let's just add that in right now, right? So where was that going? That guy give me. So where was I going with that? Help me out there. I got sidetracked with we have to edit this part out.
Nope. No editing, dude. There's no editing.
Free passes. Where was I going with that? I shouldn't have changed it to a crazy female scenario. That got me into a different place in my head.
Yeah, but that's
it'll come back in a minute.
Yeah. That tends to be the type of females that most men from our profession. I know.
Bipolar crazy because they are interested in, they keep your fucking interest, right? They keep your attention. So they're great in bed.
You're given a scenario where I'm not me, and you meet me, but I'm an attractive female. I'm not me.
Oh yeah. So we're back on the honesty. So when I did the crazy female, I got completely off topic. So honestly, I meet you, you find out I'm a yoga teacher. Okay. And it's like, that's really attractive to you because you want to be more mindful and you want to eat better and you want to be better and whatever. It's like, oh, dude, and we have chemistry. Oh, shit, I'm in trouble, right? But I don't know I'm in trouble. I like it.
Yeah.
So you tell me, it's like, yeah, I want to be more honest too. And so you're an honest person, like, yeah, I've made mistakes and whatever. And so the next thing you know, when I'm finding out, is most people after enough time are just full of shit.
Yeah.
They don't want the truth because I'm telling them the truth. They don't like it.
Yeah.
I should have lied to them, right? And they're not telling me the truth. So what I'm finding out is this whole campaign of people want the truth, want to be told the truth, and that they're honest is rare.
Yeah.
It's really fucking rare.
Fuck, man. Well, we're coming up on 3 hours. This is a long fucking show, which is good.
You want
I do. I want to hear about your book because I think the journey of somebody living a interesting existence and then putting that on paper is something that runs through almost all of our heads. And I'm actually like 60 something pages into my book.
Yeah, I'm looking
because
forward to
I've
that.
seen enough people that I respect decide this is a part of my legacy that I want to share with people. And Glover talked to me about that. He's the one that gave me the kick in the ass. He's like,
right.
Bro, like guys like us story need to be told, What was that process like? Did it come from a place of wanting to heal, or what was the motivation?
Yeah, that's a great question, Snake. So what it wound up being was one of the best therapeutic tools at all, but I didn't know that in the beginning. So it started out when I left Facebook, protecting Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg in 2014. She gave a speech, her Lean In Foundation, about her book, and it inspired me. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't in a very good place. People like us can go through real phases where we can go
Hot
a
and
few
cold.
years here and then. I wasn't in a very good place, and I just wanted to do something good, man. I just wanted to be a part of something good again, and so I thought I'm just going to start my own foundation, free yoga. No, not free yoga. I was going to something with depression or something, like PTSD, depression. That is something, and I didn't have any plan or any way to give back to it, but I thought that would be great if I could give back to contractors and stuff, and supplement from where the VA, whatever, no concept there. So that started the initial thing. And during that time, a good friend of mine, Derek Crownover, he's a top country music attorney in Nashville at Loeb and Loeb. He's a partner, and we went to school together, and he's really good people. And I went up there pro bono and consulted with him, and he said, you need some notoriety. And he said, you can possibly get notoriety through writing a book. And so the seed was planted. Well, fast forward to 2020 and COVID hits.
Yep.
And that triggers me. And it triggers me because I see some of the stuff going on with the toilet paper and stuff. This is some third world. This is intervention with people that do the kind of work I do and that kind of stuff. And I could see that, COVID was an inside job, just like 9/11 and other things. So it was very triggering for me. And so at that point, I thought, I want my grandkids and great grandkids and whatever, I want them to be able to pick up and read something that's just like I was talking to them.
Yeah.
Like I was still alive telling them my story, my truth, like really opening up, but it was meant for that audience. Even though it works for the bigger audience, I wrote that like I was sitting in the room having a conversation with my future grandkids and great grandkids that I may never meet someday. And I just wanted them to know the story. And through that 3 or 4 month period during COVID and being in isolation, it was extremely therapeutic. I faced a lot of demons. I faced a lot of shit.
Dude, and I've already noticed that happening. Not necessarily demons, but just like reliving emotions from as I write a story that I lived through. Maybe it's something I haven't thought about in like 15 years.
Right.
And then it makes you think, whatever happened to that guy? Or when's the last time I saw this person? Or you're just accessing things from your hard drive that haven't been accessed in like 20 years.
Sure.
And it feels good, man.
Yeah. It could. Well, I had a lot of
maybe it feels bad too.
I had a lot of stuff that I needed to unpack.
I guess I should just say that there's memories in there that when you access them, there's emotions that come along with that. And it's kind of a fascinating process.
Well, and that's the next thing is I read The Body Keeps the Score. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, who, created the term PTSD, has been working over 40 years. He's the premier trauma guy with veterans. And after I read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, I wasn't able to use biases and excuses and lies. I was faced with enough information to connect the dots and figure out, now I understand why I'm acting the way. Now I can fix it. Now I can change it. And it just started that path. And that led into, before the book was finished, that led into creating the foundation, BeYogaStrong.net, which is, my whole concept is simple. I'm a yoga teacher. I have a way that I teach yoga. It's very therapeutic. There's a lot of different ways to get therapy out of yoga and a lot of different styles. I want to have, in my hometown of Coffee County, Tullahoma, Tennessee, I want to have a yoga studio that's paid for. I want teachers to be able to teach 7 days a week for free. Now they get paid, but the public comes from free.
Yeah. Just to enrich the community.
Absolutely.
And help people heal.
And the only really thing is your teaching has to be mindful. From a mindful therapeutic standpoint, it has to be void of religion, because all it does is segregate people, and you can't touch the students. Mm-hmm. So, my first experience.
That's the hardest rule right there.
Well, my first experience with, like, when I got serious with yoga, I started sleeping with my yoga teacher. Uh-huh. Well, I just thought, the hippie yoga, that's just part of it. This is a loving, whatever. And that's just that's what you do.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. And so I never thought anything bad about it. And when I decided to start the foundation and become a teacher, I learned that no, there was an ethical. So like, you know, guys like us have boundaries. It's like doctors shouldn't be screwing patients.
Yeah.
Like you got a person in a vulnerable situation, you shouldn't take advantage
Bro,
of
it's
them.
straight up like, well, obviously I'm married, so that should preclude
that won't
me.
stop you. She was married too. Yeah, my yoga teacher was married too.
No, but I'm saying like same applies at the Jiu-Jitsu Academy, because the second, let's say I was single, right? The second I use my position as black belt to impress on like something sexual as opposed to just being a jiu-jitsu professor, that just made me lose credibility with all the females now, because now I'm not here to just be someone that should be a protector and a guide and a teacher. Now I'm showing ulterior motives. And that's where the phrase, you don't shit where you eat, comes from, because you can't be doing, because here's the deal. Is there a chance you could fucking marry a girl that's inside your jiu-jitsu academy and you live the rest of your life and it's awesome? Okay. That scenario might exist. But what's more likely is it's not going to work out, because statistically most relationships don't. And now I just interjected a little toxicity onto my mat room, because
it's a karma.
Yeah, because now it's like, and it's not just like
karma.
It's not just like an issue between me and her personally, but it's like maybe another team member's like, man, I like that girl, and now she's gone because her and professor, like, it's something you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah. Well, you're so we talk about internal volume. Talk about the heaven or hell inside of you. Talking about having a clear conscience, sleep good at night.
That's the title of the book.
Yeah,
internal volume.
Right. And so when you talk about that, so if you're running a studio and you know you're not being professional, but you're selling yourself as a professional, you're two different people.
Yeah.
See how easy that happens?
Yep.
Just in that one example, you're two different people now. You're not professional. So if I'm that doctor, if I'm that lawyer, if I'm that coach, and just because everybody doesn't know it,
yeah.
If I'm not being professional, but I'm advertising being professional, you're no different than Lance Armstrong saying I'm not taking anything.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, when you are.
Although I like Lance.
He's a beast. He's a beast. His mistake was being
not owning it. No, you're right.
His mistake was doubling down.
Bro, I wish all these motherfuckers. Same with Liver King. You don't do social media anymore.
No,
do you know who that motherfucker is?
No.
So Liver King is this dude that blew up on the internet over the last year because he's just fucking jacked, right? Like as jacked as you can get. Traps that go up to his earlobes.
Like in a bodybuilder kind of way, not a rugby kind of way.
No.
Yeah, like a bodybuilder, okay.
In a straight Trenbolone acetate.
Yeah.
In fucking massive amounts of fucking D-ball kind of way.
Oh, wow.
And bro, we came from the special operations community.
He went
nearly every single person on deployment went through a time where they're like, I'm going to shoot extra tests and see what happens. Welcome to Iraq. And anyone that says otherwise, fucking lying. But you know what it looks like when someone's testosterone suddenly doubles. You know?
And some of these guys, it's a scary level. Yeah.
And so this dude was trying to tell everyone he was clean. He didn't believe in steroids. He never used steroids. And then someone caught wind of his steroid order and put it out on the internet, and it's like
karma.
Duh.
Yeah, karma. No, I know. So that's.
But you're right. Why wouldn't a dude that's fucking jacked? Because I've had people when I'm in really good shape. I've had people like, and dude, literally anything you do, there's people that hate on you. I've had people in the comments been like, "Oh, looks like you're on the juice." I said, "Well, great observation, because I am. This is how much testosterone I take.
Yeah.
Why would I care?" Yeah. You know, why would you care? If you take testosterone because you like how it makes you look, you feel better, your sex life is better, good. Why would you hide from that and say it's like, because someone's going to think you're cheating? I don't give a fuck what that someone thinks, dude. Because you can't look good just because you shoot tests. That person doesn't exist.
Yeah,
you still got to eat clean, train hard, and live a fucking savage lifestyle. So it's
if you're doing testosterone replacement properly, you had a healthy testosterone level and muscle mass, and you were athletic and whatever. And as you've aged, that deteriorated, and all you're wanting to do is maintain what a healthy level was. That's what an appropriate situation should look like, and it shouldn't be that noticeable. If you were somebody that's always been in great shape and was fit and whatever, somebody would just see a consistent. I know the guys you're talking about.
But someone wants to take 10 times what's reasonable,
but then lie about it.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Then lie
Yeah,
about
but
it.
then lie about
Just say, yeah, I like how Tess makes me feel, so I took 10 times as much and I feel 10 times better. And if you don't like that, fuck you.
Do you know who Terry Bergeron is?
No.
He's a great guy. I worked with him a couple times as a contractor on different things or whatever, but he's that guy, man. He's a real professional. He's got it down to a science and how he does it or whatever. And it's like, the thing is, he owns it, you know, and that's what's so cool about it is he owns it. He's like, yeah, I do it. It's regimented. It's like this and that and the other. And it's like, there's a way to do it. And I'm not, you know, why would you want to physically look like this certain image, this persona to people, and it be a lie? That's like doubling down on not feeling good about yourself. It's almost like doubling down on not feeling good about yourself.
And bro, yeah, I think if you feel good about yourself, you wouldn't care, you know? But look at like guys like Arnold and Stallone and like all the Dolph Lundgren, all the 80s action guys that were juiced up. They still look great.
I know.
It's like, gives me hope. Maybe I should fucking start doing like, instead of just doing like a TRT dose, maybe I should just do fucking Liver King doses.
No, I don't think you should. I think whatever you're doing is great.
Well, the other side of it is like looking like Conan the Barbarian is not the best athlete, at least not for the best athlete that I want to be.
No,
I still think of like myself as a potential war fighter, right? And if you have to put a fucking 50-pound ruck on and you have to live under that ruck for the next 2 weeks, man, you got to be able to do that stuff. Yep. And through fighting, I think fighting and running are like the most foundational human athletic endeavors because throughout history, you had to be good at one of the two of them, running or fighting, right? So like bodybuilders can't do either.
Right.
And it's weird, like what 80s action stars, we started to think like everybody looks like He-Man. That's what a fucking tough man looks like.
Yeah.
Anderson Silva would kill every single one of them, and he just looks kind of long and gangly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, there's no doubt about it.
So, well, fuck, man. I think it's about time we wrap it up. I think we got a fucking lot out, but I want you to. Now, you talked about your book a little bit. I want to ask you a couple more questions and then give another, like a good plug for the book.
Sure. I want to make sure I've got a signed copy of your book here, but I also brought a t-shirt from my son's new tree business back home, Yost Tree Works. So he just
where's
finished.
Where's that operating out of? The tree?
So it'll be out of Coffee County, Tullahoma, Tennessee.
Okay.
And so he's the only certified arborist in the area, ISA certified. It was a 3-year. He's been out here on the West Coast for the last 3 years, and he just came home, and so he's just getting it started up. His girlfriend, who's an arborist as well, is very integral, and she'll be moving out there soon. And so just want to put a little plug in for them. You know, he's doing all this on his own, and just real proud of him. And
I want to touch base on the book one more time to be very clear, because you kind of said like, hey, this is a story to future generations of like the tale of who you were, or what you did. But more than that, like the full title is Internal Volume, Where a Monster and Mindfulness Become One. It's not just your autobiography. It's kind of where you, like how you came out of all of these things, and like how you found peace, and how, like, I would recommend it to anybody that is going through any type of soldierly issues, PTSD, trauma.
Or you just don't think that there's light at the end.
Yeah, it's not just the autobiography of Lee Deckelman. It's the process. Yeah, exactly like you say, where a monster and mindfulness become one. Right. And I think a lot of people have something to take away from this.
Man, I appreciate it. Yeah, and that whole subtitle, you know, there's a lot, and I know you've experienced this. You know, when you're a monster, you're being monstrous. You can be mindful or not, and usually, you know, the people that aren't able to control their monster end up being bad people. Mm-hmm. You know, so ultimately, I think one of the deciding factors on somebody capable of that kind of violence and death and destruction and whatever else, how do you know if they're a good person or not? You know, and I think has a lot to do is how mindful that monster can be, or you can be when you're monstrous. And I've needed a lot of work.
Well,
and I'm getting to a lot better place, but it's like, I feel like a good person. I want to be a good person. I want to be honest, whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm not the guy you need to kick sand in my face. And we live in a society where if somebody kicks sand in my face, I'm not really allowed to do anything about it. And that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And it does make me turn into this homicidal kind of monster. But being mindful that I haven't killed anybody since I've been home from the war. And that's a big plus.
Well, it's like what Jordan Peterson said about being a good man. It's like a good man is capable of violence, but chooses not to use it. Because if the alternative to that is someone that's incapable of violence, and that's not honorable, that's just weakness.
Yeah, that's not a good man. A good man. Yeah, I think his quote is, that's not virtuous. Being a good man. Yeah, being a good man is that's just weak.
Yeah.
A strong man is a very, very dangerous man that has it under voluntary control, I think is how he words it. And he's so right. He's like, if you think things are bad now, wait till weak people are in charge. And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
So that's what we're seeing is, and of course, would you want to admit that you're weak if you're being called out on weak? But
no, you want to be celebrated for that.
But to laugh about it, this is sort of like Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
All the big, tough, badass alpha males now are little wormy tech guys.
Yeah.
But that's the new definition of alpha male. It's like, I don't know. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see how this plays out.
Where can people find the book? It's everywhere.
It's internal volume. Again, my name's Lee Deckelman, aka Sonny, was my call sign, and it's available on Amazon. What I'm hoping is that the book does well enough, or I just attract the right kind of support or donors, so that I've given free yoga at Black Rifle Coffee. I've given it all, just different. I'm just waiting for the opportunity for somebody to see the value and go, hey, we need to get rid of few $100,000 a year, and this sounds like a great place to donate that money. We just want to have a free yoga studio. We want to have it 7 days a week. It's free therapy, mindfulness type therapy. It's a beautiful thing. There's no hidden agenda. The teachers get paid so that we can have qualified, committed, loyal, good people doing the work there. And it's just free to the public. And if it turns out to be as cool as I think, it's something we can grow.
Yeah. If someone's interested in contacting you, and you don't have to have anything set up yet, but do you want to create an email?
I do. beyogastrong.net. It's under construction like today. But it should in the next day or two be up and running again. I've got so Meg Glenn back home.
I'll put that link in the show notes below.
Yeah,
people can click that,
beyogastrong.net,
and then they'll have. I'm sure it has a contact you link.
Yeah, if
somewhere.
anybody wants to contact me direct, hopefully for something positive or just a question. Lee Deckelman, LeeDeckelman @gmail.com. That's my personal email. So again,
or you can send them messages saying what a piece of shit they think you are.
If you're mean to me, I won't respond. I'm going to be mindful. I'm going to be a mindful monster, and I'm going to ignore it.
And then we're going to show up at your house
unless you make it too personal. No, I'm just kidding, but seriously.
All right, man. Yeah. I really appreciate it, and long show is fun, and there's no doubt we'll do it.
Snake, I love you, brother. Thank you. Love it.